I'm just a miserable, overworked delivery guy. I drag myself out of bed before dawn, grind for 16 hours a day, and barely scrape together a few $1,000 a month. I was dead on my feet, so I tried reading a web novel just to chill out for a second. Big mistake. I picked the absolute worst one and got so furious I almost dropped dead on the spot. And then, I actually got sucked straight into that exact same novel. The second I realized what was happening, my first instinct was to run for my life. Screw the plot. Whoever wants to be the hero can deal with it. Me? I'm the kind of guy who breaks into a cold sweat just from a tiny needle prick. You guys can play this twisted game all by yourselves. Like I said, I was just a miserable, overworked delivery guy. Just that morning during the team meeting, my boss had chewed me out in front of everyone for missing some ridiculous, lazy-ass performance quota. A literal dog could do this job, and you still can't do it, right? He barked. Can you handle it or not? If you can't, then pack your trash and get lost. There are plenty of people waiting to take your spot. Damn it. Back when the economy was booming, nobody wanted this kind of garbage gig. But now that the economy was in the gutter, it was a hot ticket. These managers were acting so arrogant, their fat dog bellies couldn't even hide it. 2 ounces of sesame oil and 6 bottles of perfume hauled all the way up to the 6th floor. 3 back-to-back orders, and I earned a grand total of $6. What a lucky 666. By the time I dragged myself back downstairs, I was sweating so hard even my underwear was soaked through. I figured I'd pull up a novel and escape reality for a bit. By pure accident, I clicked on a story where the male lead happened to share my exact name, Ethan Carter. At first, it was actually a pretty fun read. But the deeper I got, the more I found myself screaming, "What the hell is this garbage?" The main girl absolutely tortured the male lead. She dragged him through hell for her first love, her junior apprentice, her personal assistant, and some random broke college student. And then, after all that, she magically realizes that the one she truly loved all along was the male lead. She slept with the first love, sugar-daddied the broke student, dated the junior and the assistant, and then came crawling back to the male lead. But by that point, the poor guy had already lost an eye and an entire arm. Oh, and he was missing a kidney too. I've read my fair share of messed up stories, but I still completely lost my mind over this one. What the hell? How do they even end up together after all that? Damn it! Reality is already brutal enough. And now, even in a fake fantasy world, a guy with my name gets tortured this badly. I got so insanely pissed off that I couldn't even catch my breath, and I literally blacked out. Then, when I finally opened my eyes again, bathed in the soft glow of a nightlight, I was staring at a massive room and wrapped in a ridiculously soft blanket. There was something heavy pressing right against me. I reached out blindly and felt it. It was incredibly soft and smooth, so, naturally, I rubbed it a couple of times. Suddenly, a soft little gasp came from right beside my ear. Every single hair on my body stood straight up in pure panic. I slowly turned my head and locked eyes with the most charming, breathtakingly beautiful face I had ever seen. I clamped my jaw shut, absolutely terrified to make even a single sound. She wasn't going to scream, was she? I slowly turned my head away and glued my eyes to the ceiling, way too scared to look back at her. She was way too gorgeous. But the real problem was, wait, hadn't I just been complaining about my sweat-soaked underwear and how I desperately needed to go home and change before it got dark? But now, here I was, lying in a giant bed with a stunning woman right next to me. Suddenly, a massive flood of memories crashed straight into my brain. A blinding pain hit me. Holy crap, I had actually transmigrated. Wait, not just transmigrated anywhere. I was inside that exact same trash novel I had just finished reading. The sick, abusive tragedy where the male lead shared my name and ended up blind in one eye, missing an arm, and short a whole kidney. And every single bit of that suffering had been caused by the woman lying right next to me. I slowly turned my head to look at her again. Then I felt around for that heavy thing pressing on top of me. It was her leg. Without even thinking, I rubbed it a few more times. She let out a quiet whimper, so I brazenly felt around a little more. She kept making these soft, breathy sounds, and even leaned in closer, pressing her warm body right up against mine. One of her delicate arms wrapped lazily around my neck. I could instantly feel myself pitching a tent. I whipped my head back around and stared desperately at the ceiling. My future was destined to be an absolute living hell, and it was entirely because of the woman beside me. This was my legally married wife, Wendy Quinn. Right now, the timeline hadn't reached the traumatic, abusive parts yet. We were still smack in the middle of the sweet honeymoon phase of the plot. I had a literal marriage license, which meant I had the ultimate green light. So taking advantage of this moment was completely understandable for a guy like me, who had been single for over 20 years. After fusing with his memories, I was him, and he was me. So, technically, she was my wife too. No moral dilemma there. Plus, this woman was going to make my life an absolute nightmare in the future. So, collecting a little early interest right now wasn't asking too much, right? Whatever. The whole losing an eye, an arm, and a leg thing could wait until later. I ran my hand along her leg again, and as she let out a soft, breathy moan, I leaned in and kissed her lips. Since I already knew exactly how twisted the plot was going to get, I didn't have a single ounce of desire to act tender or protective over her. Honestly, just thinking about the absolute hell waiting for me later, how could I not be plotting my escape? It was just too damn miserable. So, right now, before everything spirals into a twisted tragedy, I needed to finish my business here and run as far away as humanly possible. Ideally, we would never cross paths ever again. It was a damn shame to walk away from a gorgeous, filthy, rich female CEO, but she still wasn't as important as keeping my own life intact. Even if she magically came to her senses and loved me later on, I'd already be permanently disabled by then. No thanks. What the hell good would that do? Without a functioning body, romance is nothing but useless window dressing. Looking but not touching? That was pure torture. I had finally broken free from slaving away like a damn beast of burden. Now that I had scored this second chance, I needed to play my cards right. I had to think carefully about how to use this gorgeous CEO wife to secure a better future for myself. After tossing and groaning all night long, I almost accidentally ascended straight to heaven. I lost count of how many times I paid my dues. Let's just say 20 years of pent-up savings had been completely drained by her. When I dragged myself out of bed the next morning, I threw together breakfast, feeling a little guilty. Cooking was second nature to me, though. Between living alone in my past life and inheriting this body's memories, I was actually a pretty damn good chef. I guess I wore her out pretty badly last night, because Wendy didn't roll out of bed until almost 9 o'clock. She dragged herself out of the bathroom, clutching the doorframe with one hand massaging her waist, and glared right at me. "Were you watching porn last night or something?" I instantly felt a twinge of guilt. I had no idea she'd pick up on anything being off. If she figured out my entire personality had changed overnight, yeah, I'd better just keep my mouth shut and focus on flipping these eggs. When I didn't take the bait, she scoffed and marched back into the bedroom. By the time she came back out, she was already dressed for the day. I dug through my inherited memories. Right. The two of us were smack in the middle of a brutal Cold War. The reason? Her precious first love, Doug, had caught a stomach bug and came running to our city to see her a few days ago. She actually demanded that I hand over my assistant job to his highly educated cousin, expecting me to just sit at home twiddling my thumbs as an unemployed loser. Naturally, the previous owner of this body blew up at her over it. But throwing a tantrum when you have zero actual power? That just makes you a joke. He got nothing out of that fight except a front row seat to Wendy's ruthless mockery. All it earned him was being labeled selfish, inconsiderate, and totally narrow-minded. In Wendy Quinn's eyes, her poor Doug had absolutely nothing, while I supposedly had the privilege of being with her, the very person who constantly hurt me. Having me around is just bad luck? Lady, you're pretty full of yourself, aren't you? My wild, uncontrolled behavior in bed last night? Wendy Quinn probably took that as my white flag of surrender. She could think whatever the hell she wanted. I had absolutely no intention of staying tangled up in her mess. "Tonight, Doug is bringing Lily over for dinner," she announced. "Make sure you whip up something good. Doug can't handle heavy food, so keep it light and easy on his stomach. And the kid loves sweets, so make your specialty sweet and sour pork." I nearly rolled my eyes out of my skull. Wow, she was straight up barking out meal orders now. But oh boy, here it comes. Here it comes! That bastard was really coming over to my turf with his little brat. That two-faced snake, hiding his nasty, malicious heart behind a pathetic smile, was finally entering the stage. The real plot had officially arrived. That bastard had a silver tongue that worked like a damn magic spell. The second he showed up, no matter what garbage spilled from his lips, even if he blatantly framed me, Wendy Quinn would swallow it unconditionally. My days of pure misery started the exact moment that guy walked into the picture. And she seriously wanted me to cook and play servant for him? Keep dreaming, sweetheart. The old me loved Wendy so much that he swallowed his pride and cooked up an entire feast for them. And his reward? Doug whining about a stomachache, nitpicking the food, and stirring up a massive pile of drama. That stunt triggered a bitter Cold War between Wendy and me that dragged on for half a month. It totally fractured their relationship. Wendy Quinn, you want me to cook for him? Are you out of your damn mind? If you love serving that guy so much, tie on an apron and do it yourself. Did I forget to mention how much I despise them? Because if you force me into that kitchen, I really can't guarantee I'll control myself. I might just get overly enthusiastic and add a little special something to their food. There was no way in hell I was going to spoil this woman anymore. Worst case scenario? I'd just die again. Hell, maybe it would even send me back to my original world. Though, honestly, I couldn't think of a single good reason to go back there. Wendy froze in her tracks. Ethan Carter! How can you be so vicious? Her lips were literally trembling. My flat-out refusal had completely shell-shocked her. Even when our fights had hit rock bottom, I had never, ever snapped at her with that kind of venom. After our memories merged, the previous owner's suffering felt exactly like my own. I felt all that lingering frustration as if I'd lived every miserable second of it. But knowing her stubborn personality, there was no way she'd just back down. Ethan Carter, do not push your luck with me. I thought you finally did some self-reflecting last night. Oh, I reflected all right. Of course I reflected. And the grand conclusion of my reflection? I will absolutely never bow down to the evil forces in this house. If worst comes to worst, we'll all just go down together. He wants to eat food I cooked? I dragged out the words with a vicious sneer. Wendy's eyes went wide. Evil forces? Who exactly are you calling evil forces? He is a childhood friend I grew up with. There is absolutely nothing going on between us. Stop being so crazily jealous over nothing. Just listen to that textbook excuse. How incredibly cliché. Have dinner ready on the table tonight. As for that little tantrum you threw over the assistant position, I'm willing to let it slide and drop the issue. Otherwise, do not blame me for getting nasty. After barking that threat, she probably realized she didn't sound intimidating enough. She actually had the nerve to point her finger right in my face. I mean, look at this. The guy hasn't even shown up yet, and the tension in this house has already hit rock bottom. Seriously, what kind of trash-tier author wrote this garbage plot? Luckily for me, I have zero intention of playing along with their stupid script. At this point, talking was a total waste of breath. I just shot her a sideways glance and scoffed. Me? Rude? Heh, catch me first. Then we can talk. Wendy Quinn actually thought I was backing down. She let out a snort of her own, completely ignoring her breakfast. Then, she stormed off, her steps looking totally stiff and awkward. The front door slammed shut behind her with a massive bang. I just leaned against the window, watching her car speed off into the distance. Man, if I didn't make a run for it right now, what the hell was I waiting for? I practically jumped 3 feet in the air. To hell with being polite. I marched straight into her study, cracked open the safe, and hit the jackpot nearly $300,000 in cold, hard cash, just sitting there in a bag. There were a bunch of shiny gold bars in there, too. Obviously, I scooped those up without a second thought. After that, I sprinted to my room and threw every single gift she had ever given me into a bag. Designer watches, flashy accessories, if it looked expensive, it was coming with me. Down in the garage sat the 2 luxury cars she had bought me. I tossed my bags into one of them and peeled out of the driveway instantly. My first stop was the bank. I drained every last cent from my usual account and transferred it all to a brand new card. There was no way I was letting that woman freeze my funds. That payroll card held the $100,000 I had actually earned sweating it out at her company. Next, I dragged that massive pile of gifts straight to a pawn shop and liquidated the whole lot. I took the gold bars over to a jewelry store and traded them in for fat stacks of cash. Finally, I drove that flashy ride straight to a used car lot to sell it off. Honestly, I didn't care if I had to take a massive loss on the price tag. The only thing that mattered was getting cash, and getting it fast. The dealer saw how desperate I was and totally thought I had stolen the damn thing. I slammed all the legal paperwork and title documents right onto his desk. Look, it's an $800,000 car. I'll let it go for $500,000, but I need the cash right now. The guy's eyes bugged out, and he practically jumped 3 feet in the air. He called up a private buyer at lightning speed, and the guy showed up before I even knew it. Cash in one hand, keys in the other, the deal was done in a flash. They were all looking at me like I was crazy, asking why I was in such a massive rush to dump it. What else could I say? I put on a tragic face and told them, my wife has terminal brain cancer. I desperately need the money to save her life. The two of them immediately gave me a thumbs up and said, "Man, you are a real hero." Ha! That woman was 1,000,000 times worse than brain cancer. Anyway, I finally sat down and did the math. Between the pawned gifts, the car, the gold, and the cash on my bank card, I was sitting on $3.8 million. If I'm being totally honest, Wendy actually treated me pretty well. If I didn't know the absolute nightmare of a plot waiting for me later, I really wouldn't have wanted to leave her. For someone like me, a former corporate slave, to land this kind of life was basically like hitting the absolute jackpot of ancestral blessings. In fact, it wasn't just a jackpot, it was a raging bonfire of good luck. But right now, none of that mattered. No matter how insanely rich I was, the second I remembered my destined future as a crippled, tortured mess, I was out. The cash sitting right in front of me was more than I could have ever earned in my entire past life anyway. I actually had to stay alive if I wanted to enjoy any of it. Being too greedy is just like a snake trying to swallow a whole elephant. It's a quick way to get yourself killed. I could just disappear to some quiet, peaceful little town. Hell, the interest alone from this money would be more than enough for me to live like a king for the rest of my days. I racked my brain, trying to think if there was absolutely anything else I had forgotten to take care of. Crap! In my mad dash to leave, I forgot the most important thing. All my personal IDs and documents were still back at the house. I had to go back for them. As for asking for a divorce? Yeah, right, forget that. There was no way in hell I was going to dare bring that up to her. If I did, I probably wouldn't make it out of that house alive. Besides, if she ended up getting herself killed down the line, I might even inherit the rest of her fortune, right? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had to hurry the hell up and run. The story's crazy third male lead had already made his appearance. If I delayed my escape by even a single minute, it would be a total disrespect to my own survival. Thinking back to all the trashy novels and short videos I'd consumed, there was always some stupid countdown or a mandatory cooling-off period for the divorce. And during that exact window of time, the poor protagonist would get tortured absolutely beyond recognition. They'd have zero dignity left. Heck, they'd barely have a body left either. Missing arms, shattered legs, bleeding out just before they finally tried to board their escape plane. How incredibly pathetic is that? But who would have thought that the second I got back home to grab my documents and pushed open the front door, holy crap, Wendy, Doug, and that little kid named Lily were all sitting right there in the living room. A violent chill instantly shot straight down my spine. When Wendy locked eyes with me, she immediately demanded, "Where the hell did you go? Why are you only just now getting back?" I didn't make a single sound. I just stared dead on at Calvin's mouth, watching it open. Wendy. Mr. Carter. Damn it all! This absolute bastard actually dared to open his mouth. I surged forward with lightning speed, raised my hand, and slapped him right across the face. "Shut your mouth!" I snarled. Before they could react, I darted straight into my room, leaving all three of them standing there completely stunned. I frantically grabbed my document pouch from the drawer and shoved it deep into my jacket pocket. Then, I spun right back around and charged back out into the hall. Doug was clutching his red face, looking at Wendy with this pitiful, aggrieved expression. "Wendy, you see how he treats me?" The sheer rage made my head pound. I rushed straight over, raised my hand, and slapped him hard across the face all over again. Then I immediately dashed toward the front door, backing 3 feet away to keep my distance. If I didn't keep my guard up, my life was in serious danger. Only then did Wendy finally snap out of her shock. "Ethan Carter, are you completely insane?" she screamed. "Why on earth would you hit him? You need to apologize to Doug right now. Bang!" I slammed the door shut so hard the frame rattled. Apologize? Yeah, they can kiss my ass. I stormed straight into the garage, hopped into my last remaining car, and floored it straight to another used car dealership. Boom. Another $500,000 in my hand. My phone just kept blowing up, ringing off the hook, but I didn't even bother answering it. It was only after every single thing was completely settled, and I had secured a one-way train ticket to a quiet little seaside city down south, that I finally picked up the damn phone. "Ethan Carter, just where the hell did you go? You get back here right this instant and apologize to Doug. Wendy, did you slam your head in a door or something? Didn't you literally just tell me to cook dinner for you guys?" "Duh, I came out to buy groceries." "And apologize? Apologize for what exactly? What the hell did I even do wrong?" "I'm not apologizing for jack shit. Ethan Carter. Since when did you become so completely classless?" "Fine. Since you said you're cooking, I'll let it slide this time. So, what dishes are you making?" Oh, she really knew how to give herself an out. "Braised diamond drill bits and some nice stir-fried steel rods," I snapped. "Now, get lost." Click. I hung up the phone, and man, my chest swelled with this incredible, twisted satisfaction. That fat stack of cash in my pocket? That was my liquid courage. I was going to lay low for a few years. Once she completely forgot I even existed, I'd take off and party my way across the entire globe. Meanwhile, back at the house, Wendy was just staring blankly at her phone, utterly and completely speechless. In the 3 solid years since they had tied the knot, she had never, ever been treated like this. Honestly, all of Ethan's care for her felt like he was raising a spoiled daughter. Even when they fought bitterly, he could never bear to say a single harsh word to her, let alone act as totally savage as he just did today. Deep down, she felt a sudden chill. Something was different. Now, it wasn't like Ethan Carter hadn't argued with her before over her precious first love, or that broke student she sponsored, or even her cute little junior apprentice. But every single time they bumped heads, he would always end up treating her with gentle kindness right afterward. But ever since last night, Ethan Carter seemed like a completely different, cold-blooded person. Everything he did was just entirely unhinged and unreasonable. Today, he had actually physically hit someone, and to top it off, he had slammed the phone right in her face. When she frantically called him back, it went straight to voicemail. His phone was turned off. For some inexplicable reason, a sinking feeling told her that Ethan Carter was absolutely not coming back to cook for them tonight. She couldn't even explain why she felt that way. The dread was just there. But still, in her wildest dreams, she never truly believed he would actually leave her for good. Doug dramatically covered his bruised face. With perfect timing, he timidly shuffled up to Wendy. "Wendy, was Mr. Carter always this violently aggressive? Does he have some kind of grudge against me? Maybe. Maybe I just shouldn't have come. You know exactly how incredibly hard it is for me to raise a child all by myself. Her poor mother passed away so early. I just wanted to let my little girl feel a little bit of warmth from a real family. Do you have any idea how much a motherless child longs for that kind of love?" As he forced those pathetic words out, tears perfectly welled up in his sad puppy dog eyes. It looked like they were going to spill over at any second. Wendy was naturally quite a stubborn woman, but seeing her childhood first love making that utterly pitiful face, her icy heart instantly melted into a puddle. "Oh, Doug, please don't be upset. This whole mess isn't your fault at all. When Ethan gets back here, I will personally force him to apologize to you. If little Lily doesn't have a mother, then I'll step up and be her godmother." She then turned to give Lily a warm, maternal look. "How does that sound, sweetie?" Mind you, Wendy had been married for 3 solid years, and she had constantly used her busy career as an excuse to religiously stay on birth control. She had flatly refused to have a child of her own. Yet right here, right now, she eagerly wanted to play mommy to another man's kid. She had grown incredibly cold and distant from her own lawful husband. So honestly, thank God I made my great escape early. I glared at the live surveillance feed on my phone screen and curled my lip in pure disgust. On the screen, Lily lifted her little head, looked up at Wendy with wide, blinking doe eyes, and called out in a fragile, squeaky little voice, "Mommy." Wendy's stiff expression softened completely into pure mush. Meanwhile, a sly, calculating glint flashed right through Doug's sneaky eyes. He quickly wiped away those fake crocodile tears. "Wendy, what about dinner tonight?" Wendy's face twisted with anger. When Ethan Carter dares to show his face tonight, I am absolutely going to teach him a brutal lesson. Come on, let's just go out to a nice restaurant. Ethan Carter. Let's just see how long you can keep this little tantrum up. If you don't crawl back and apologize this time, don't you even dream about me ever forgiving you. You actually had the nerve to hit Doug. Doug already has it hard enough as a struggling single father. If anything bad happens to him, I will never, ever let you off the hook. My man is supposed to be generous and understanding, see? Wow, this was exactly where her twisted logic started completely derailing. I wasn't even in the damn room, yet I was already catching strays and being completely hated on. Oh, I was being real generous right about now. I didn't want a single thing from that toxic wasteland anymore. Sitting there on the speeding train, I felt like I had just been handed a giant middle finger right out of thin air. Damn this garbage author and their trashy plot lines. I angrily tapped the screen and killed the surveillance feed. Logically speaking, now that I, a main participant in this doomed plot, had successfully broken out of the storyline, I had absolutely no clue how things would develop next. Still, I didn't delete Wendy Quinn's number, nor did I block her. Honestly, I was just a little afraid that if she completely lost track of me, that crazy woman might actually do something dangerously extreme. But actually, I mostly just wanted a front row seat to watch how this dumpster fire of a plot developed. Why? Because I had planted a massive, explosive landmine right under their feet. I couldn't help but chuckle, wondering exactly what kind of horrified expression Wendy Quinn was going to make tomorrow when she finally stepped on that landmine. Back in the city, Wendy took Doug and little Lily out for a fancy meal. Doug played his role perfectly, acting especially attentive and sweet. Lily also cooperated flawlessly like a trained little actress. But despite it all, Wendy just poked at her food, eating totally absent-mindedly. Even while she was fending off Doug and Lily, her thoughts just kept snapping right back to Ethan Carter today. Seriously, what the hell was his problem? The second she got home tonight, she was going to interrogate him and get some real answers. What on earth had gotten into him? After the insane stunt he dared to pull last night, her head was spinning with so much anxiety that she could not focus on anything else. She scarfed down her dinner, flat out rejected Doug's offer to walk her back, and practically sprinted all the way home. Standing right in front of her door, she took a deep breath, trying desperately to get her raging emotions under control. She had no idea why she was acting so worked up. Just relax. Relax. Take it easy. Do not lose your temper, she muttered softly to herself. But the moment she pushed the door open, her blood ran absolutely cold. The house was dead silent and pitch black. That warm little light he always left on for her? Completely gone. The whole place felt suffocatingly empty, almost as if no one had ever stepped foot inside. It was so terrifyingly quiet that her own breathing echoed back at her. She flicked on the wall switch. Ethan? Ethan Carter? Her voice shook uncontrollably. There was a fragile sliver of hope in her tone, but she was met with absolute nothingness. No steaming hot bath waiting for her. No perfectly cooked dinner resting on the table. Not a single, solitary sound. Even though she had mentally braced herself for this exact scenario, a spark of pure anger still flared up in her chest. She slumped onto the couch, yanked out her phone, and dialed the number she had barely used lately. "Hello?" I answered casually. "Where the hell did you go? Why aren't you home yet?" she demanded. "Do you have any idea what time it is?" Her voice was shaking, desperately trying to keep a lid on her boiling emotions. "I just went out to take care of some stuff and got held up. I probably won't be coming back for a while." I lied without missing a single beat. It did not matter anyway. She had no way of tracking me down right now. What kind of stuff could you possibly have to do? What could ever be more important than me? She snapped. "Do you even realize what you did this afternoon, Wendy Quinn?" I cut her off cold. "Do not even think about bringing up your precious first love, your little junior colleague, or that charity case student of yours. I do not want to hear a single damn word about any of them. It makes me sick. I already told you, Doug and I have been childhood friends since we were practically babies," she cried. "Shane Lowe is just my junior colleague. I only gave him a hand because he is dirt poor and works his tail off. I do not give a flying crap if he is a donkey, a mule, a horse, or whatever." Beep, beep, beep. Before she could spit out another pathetic excuse, I ended the call right in her face. I had made it crystal clear that I was completely done hearing about those guys, yet she still had the nerve to shove them in my face. My phone lit up with her name again. I let out a sigh and answered it anyway. "What exactly is that supposed to mean?" she demanded. "Ethan Carter, I am warning you," she started, but I cut right through her. "I am telling you this so you understand you had better take me seriously. Do not treat my boundaries like a joke. From now on, if those three guys get brought up while we are on the phone, I am hanging up on you permanently. My absolute hatred for them runs deep into my freaking bones." Over on the other end of the line, Wendy Quinn completely choked on her own words. She quickly swallowed her pride, shifting her tone to ask, "So when exactly do you plan on coming back?" But even then, she still sounded ridiculously arrogant. "It entirely depends on my mood," I replied. "If I feel good, maybe I will head back sooner. If I am pissed, then I am staying gone." "Where are you even going?" she pressed. "To kick down the gates of heaven and get absolutely wasted above the clouds," I joked. She let out a dry, mocking little laugh. "What? Are you planning to just walk away and never come back?" She scoffed. "Yeah, maybe I will just leave and never look back," I challenged. "You are joking, right?" Her voice suddenly wavered with uncertainty. I let out a sharp, cold chuckle. "Hey, every joke has a little bit of truth hidden inside it. I guess it just depends on whether you actually care or not." Honestly, I was not trying to back her into a corner just yet. I had not put nearly enough miles between us. I knew for a fact that if Wendy Quinn realized I was actually running away, her obsessive side would snap and she would hunt me down. There was no way in hell I was sticking around for the abusive, messed-up plotline that was coming. In this massive world, my own survival was the only thing that mattered to me. Literally, on the very first day I crossed over into this crazy world, I hooked up with the female CEO, bagged a massive pile of cash, and ran for the hills. My glorious, carefree life had not even started yet. I definitely did not want to get dragged back so soon. I just needed to run far enough away. "I understand," she sighed. "That is totally fine, too. You've been in a really foul mood lately anyway. Just stay out there and have fun for a few more days." She paused for a second. "Do you have enough money on you?" Ding! A massive light bulb instantly went off in my head. Wait, what exactly was she implying right now? Before I could even come up with a clever response, my phone suddenly lit up after sitting in complete silence. $200,000 had just been deposited into my account. Holy freaking hell! Are you seriously telling me this was not true love? How on earth did things end up turning so insanely toxic later on? My brain felt totally fried. "Just take some time to properly relax, then come back to me soon, okay?" Her voice had completely melted back into its usual gentle sweetness. "Oh, wow, then I definitely will not bother you anymore tonight," I blurted out. "If you find any amazing food or cool spots on your trip, make sure you take some videos for me. We can go check them out together in the future." Beep, beep, beep. She hung up the phone. I just stood there, staring dead at the $200,000 transfer receipt glowing on my screen, with only one single thought echoing in my mind. Was having a sugar mama seriously this insanely profitable? I quickly began frantically digging through my host's past memories. It turned out Wendy Quinn had tried to wire me huge amounts of cash plenty of times before, but the old me was terrified she would view me as a cheap gold digger. Because of that stupid pride, I had rejected every single penny. I twitched my lips and spat out two crisp words, "dumbass." Yup, this time I was genuinely cursing out my own damn self. As for her whole spiel about us traveling together, yeah, forget it. What, was she planning to push my wheelchair around for the rest of my life? Drag a guy who's blind in one eye to go sightseeing across this beautiful country of ours? Please. I clicked accept on that money transfer without a single ounce of guilt. I was going to see this beautiful country on my own terms. Seriously, what kind of trash-tier novel was my life turning into? After all, this reality was built right on top of the main world. Everything here felt pretty much the same as it did before I crossed over, but with a few twisted little differences. I couldn't put my finger on exactly what had changed, but the bottom line? I could finally visit so many places that were completely off limits to me before. But the absolute best part of all this? For the first time in forever, I actually had cold, hard cash in my pocket. Money I could never have saved up in my past life, no matter how much I broke my back working. You have no idea how satisfying that felt. Meanwhile, after Wendy hung up the phone, she slumped back against her sofa, watching the $200,000 transfer finally go through. She let out a long, heavy sigh of relief. Honestly, she couldn't even figure out why her nerves were totally shot in the first place. She hadn't dared to say another word to him. She was terrified that pushing him would force things down a path she desperately wanted to avoid. But seeing that he had actually accepted her money, the tight knot in her chest finally started to loosen up just a bit. In her mind, as long as he was still willing to take her cash, that invisible bond between them wasn't completely shattered yet. She lay lifelessly against the cushions, just blankly staring up at the ceiling. For their entire 3 years of marriage, she had always been the one calling the shots. She had never felt this incredibly helpless and uncertain in her life. It really felt like, starting from last night, the entire dynamic had violently shifted. Before she could wrap her head around those crazy changes, her phone suddenly buzzed, making her groan with obvious irritation. She glanced at the screen and saw Doug's name flashing. She picked it up, and Doug's slightly hoarse, desperate-sounding voice immediately poured through the speaker. "Wendy, Lily isn't feeling well at all. She won't stop crying and she keeps begging to see you. Can you please come over?" "Well, did you call a doctor? Have you taken her to the hospital?" Wendy Quinn blurted out the questions almost entirely on autopilot. Even as the words left her mouth, she felt a sudden jolt of surprise at her own cold reaction. In the past, whenever Doug brought the kid into the city and called her up, she would drop everything and rush over to play savior without a second thought. So why the heck was she questioning it today? On the other end of the line, Doug went dead silent for an awkwardly long moment. Then, laying on the gilt, he murmured, "Wendy, is Ethan Carter mad at you because you stayed out way too late having dinner with us tonight? Is he making a scene? If he's throwing a fit, please apologize to him for me. It's just, Lily feels so awful, and she truly needs her mommy right now." Wendy frowned, totally confused by the leap in logic. She hadn't even brought up Ethan Carter's name. Why on earth was this guy dragging her husband into this mess again? Ethan wasn't even at the house right now anyway. "No, it's fine. Just hold on a second. I'll head over there right away." Wendy Quinn just casually smoothed out the wrinkles on her clothes. Feeling way too drained to bother changing, she forced herself up and headed for the door. Right at the doorway, she paused, casting one last, sweeping look over the empty, quiet house. Then, with a heavy sigh, she pulled the door open and stepped out into the night. For the entire first half of the night, little Lily's condition was a total roller coaster, constantly fluctuating between getting better and sharply dropping off. The kid cried and whined endlessly, absolutely refusing to let Wendy out of her sight. Meanwhile, Doug hovered around, playing the overly attentive host. "Wendy, it's getting way too late. Why don't you just crash here for the night?" "Mommy, please don't go. Stay here with Lily." Doug chimed in again. "Wendy, are you still stressing out over Mr. Carter? Honestly, it's all my fault for being such a useless burden to you. Lily's health is just so incredibly fragile. I feel terrible that we're constantly getting in the middle of your marriage. First thing tomorrow, I'll personally march over to your house and beg for his forgiveness. I just really hope he's generous enough to let this slide." Right after he finished his little speech, he shot a quick, resentful glare down at Lily. Taking the cue, the little girl instantly burst into fresh, dramatic tears. "Mommy, I'm so sorry." "It's all Lily's fault." Wendy Quinn exhaustedly rubbed her throbbing temples. She honestly couldn't even process what the hell she was feeling right now. The second anyone so much as breathed Ethan Carter's name, this weird, unexplainable wave of discomfort washed right over her. The guy wasn't even in the room, and yet somehow every single little thing kept getting forcefully tied right back to him. "Lily, listen to me. If you're really not feeling well, you need to just lie down and get some proper rest. Stop worrying your little head over things that don't concern you. Otherwise, how are you ever supposed to actually get better?" Wendy Quinn was so completely drained that her voice came out sounding unnaturally stiff and detached. Sensing the shift, Doug quickly started patting Lily on the back. He had easily picked up on the sharp edge of impatience in Wendy's tone and knew better than to push his luck too far. "All right, Lily, that's enough. Don't make Mommy feel guilty anymore. Hurry up and get some sleep. You need to get better soon, okay?" As he smoothly played the doting dad, he scooped up his jacket from the chair. "It's way too late for you to be out. Come on, I'll walk you to your car." Wendy just gave him a smile, one that looked gentle but felt freezing cold and completely distant. "And how exactly is that going to work? You walk me to my car, and then what? I drive you all the way back here?" You want to leave a sick kid home entirely alone? What if an actual emergency happens? If things really take a turn for the worse, all my effort tonight will have been a complete waste of time. Just stay put and keep Lily company. I can show myself out just fine. Without even pausing to give Doug another chance to beg her to stay, she turned on her heel and walked out with absolute finality. Doug instinctively reached a hand out toward her, but the words died in his throat. The second the front door clicked shut, the fake warmth vanished. He slowly lowered his head, glaring menacingly at the little girl trembling on the bed. Then, without a second of hesitation, he raised his hand and slapped Lily violently across the face. "You utterly useless piece of trash," he spat with pure venom. Lily just curled up, burying her head into the mattress as she desperately covered her stinging cheek. The tears that used to flow so easily when Wendy Quinn was around completely vanished this time. Her dark eyes just stared dead at the bedsheets, a sharp flash of bitter resentment cutting through them. Meanwhile, there I was, dragging my feet through the cobblestone streets of some ancient city. God, I was absolutely wiped out. The original plan? Ride straight through to the final destination in one single brutal stretch. So how the hell did I lose control and force myself to hop off halfway? Seriously, dragging myself up a mountain in the dead of night was on a whole other level of crazy. Even to me, my own behavior was creeping me out. When I finally hauled myself to the peak and stared at that heavy chain smothered in love locks, my vision snapped into sharp focus on one lock in particular. I traced the names etched into the metal: Ethan Carter and Wendy Quinn. This was the exact one my past self and Wendy had locked up here together. I dropped into a squat, my hands literally shaking. Damn it all, the ghosts of these two were already haunting me before the bodies were even fully cold in the ground. I gripped that rusty lock tight. What if I just sawed the damn thing open? Then this twisted bond would be severed for good. Smack! I stared down at my own right hand in absolute shock. Son of a bitch. I hadn't even been slapped by a single soul since crossing over into this world. Yet here I was, slapping my own damn face. Was there seriously no escaping the sick gravity of this plot? If nobody else stepped up to beat me, my own body would do the honors. No wonder you ended up a crippled mess, you absolute idiot. I gritted my teeth, fighting with everything I had to resist the storyline and hijack my own hijacked limbs. The old me had loved Wendy Quinn so fiercely, it mutated into something reckless and completely unhinged. Just seeing her show a shred of care for anyone else was enough to rip his heart to pieces. And because that love ran so terrifyingly deep, the hatred that followed was a bottomless abyss. That's when he started lashing out, kicking off a brutally toxic cycle. The more he exploded, the harder Wendy pushed back to spite him. And just like that, two people who used to be so crazily in love they couldn't stand to be apart just ended up shredding each other to bits. Now I truly felt how ruthless this twisted plot really was. I had literally swapped souls, yet the lingering muscle memory of this host body still managed to drag me all the way out here. I scrambled to find a cheap inn, crashed on the bed, and passed out cold. A good night's sleep is the only cure for 1,000 stupid problems. The very next day, Wendy Quinn walked around with heavy, dark bags under her eyes. The night before, she had dreamed of Ethan Carter. In the dream, Ethan had just stared at her in total silence. His eyes were sickeningly soft and gentle, but he didn't utter a single word. "Ethan, I miss you so much. Please, just come back soon," she begged, her voice breaking in the dream. But instead, she watched Ethan slowly curl his lips into a mocking smirk. "Go back? Go back for what exactly? Just to watch you cuddle up in your little toy's arms while swearing you still love me? Even a stray dog wouldn't want love that filthy. So, goodbye forever." And with that, he turned on his heel and bolted. "I didn't!" she screamed, her heart violently shattering inside the nightmare. When she jolted awake, her tears had completely drenched the pillowcase. And ironically, today was Doug's very first day at work. Wendy frantically threw herself together and rushed straight to the company. As for me, oh, I slept like an absolute baby that night. There was no cursed plot yanking me around like a puppet in my dreams. After freshening up and inhaling some breakfast, stepping outside felt like a brand new world. Purely out of muscle memory, I found myself wandering over to a quaint little craft shop. staring through the glass at a pair of crystal-clear little figurines so sickeningly cute and adorable I suddenly felt the urge to buy them. Let's be real here. I had never been into this kind of cheesy crap before. Without a doubt, this was the ghost of my past self acting up again. Back in the day, he and Wendy had spotted them right before hiking up the mountain, swearing they would buy them on the way back down. But they ended up wasting way too much time up at the peak, and by the time they dragged themselves down, they were rushing like crazy to catch their train. So, those two little figurines turned into a bitter, unfulfilled regret. God damn it! The plot was screwing with me again. I was getting seriously pissed off now. Right after handing over the cash, I fully intended to raise my arm and smash the stupid things to pieces. But no matter how hard I strained, my arm flat out refused to lift. Fine. It's the plot taking over, isn't it? You really want to play hardball with me, huh? I locked my hands behind my back and just threw my entire body backward. I'll sit on you and crush you to dust myself. Then, I slammed hard onto my tailbone, lost all my momentum, and wiped out completely on the pavement. Stunned, I looked up, utterly speechless at my own right hand. It was thrust high up into the air. Those stupid little figurines were being held up like a damn trophy, perfectly safe, without a single scratch on them. To hell with this cursed plot inertia. A massive crowd had already formed a circle around me, but I didn't even want to get up. What the hell is this guy doing? Is he insane? Who knows? Maybe he's one of those weird street performers? Back up. Give him space. Look, he's still mumbling something to himself. Honestly, I couldn't care less about the whispers buzzing around me. The truth was, I just wanted to lie there forever. Can we please just call a truce with our own damn souls? Along this journey, I'll buy whatever it is you want. I'll buy all the stupid little trinkets from your memories. But I absolutely cannot go back to her. I know exactly how brutal this plot gets later on. If I go back there, I am dead beyond any hope of salvation. Every ounce of love will just turn into pure poison. And that right there is my absolute bottom line. I stared at my own hand, still awkwardly jutting up into the sky, before it finally, slowly lowered back down. I huffed. I let out a long, heavy exhale. Had I actually just brokered a peace treaty with my own ghost? I looked down at the tiny glass dolls resting in my palm. Okay, they really were pretty damn cute. I had zero clue what other psychotic stunts this plot inertia was going to force me to pull next, but if this was the worst of it for now, I guess I could swallow my pride and accept it. Still, my great escape had to push forward. Meanwhile, the second Wendy set foot inside the company, she was met with a massive crowd mobbing the entrance of Ethan Carter's old office. As she stepped closer, Doug's smug voice echoed from inside. "Trash everything in here. Hurry up and clear it out. This is my office now." He sounded so damn arrogant, and the staff inside was already busy packing things away. The framed photo of Ethan Carter and Wendy Quinn, which used to sit proudly on the desk, was snatched up and carelessly tossed into a cardboard box. It was treated like absolute garbage, tossed aside without a second thought. Wendy Quinn's eyes narrowed into dangerous slits. "What exactly are you doing?" The whole room froze. Doug quickly hurried over with a smile. "Wendy, perfect timing. Didn't you say this office was getting cleared out for me? I'm officially clocking in today." I absolutely love this spot. Wendy Quinn stayed dead silent, just staring at him. Honestly, it was true. Back when she forced Ethan Carter to resign and surrender his workspace, she really had promised this exact office to Doug. But now, a heavy wave of unease suddenly hit her. She dodged Doug's eager gaze, put it all back. This office is strictly off-limits for now. No one is allowed to touch a single thing in here. Then, she turned and softened her voice. "I'll set up another room for you, Doug." Doug anxiously stepped closer. "Aw, come on, Wendy." But her eyes had completely lost their patient warmth. She locked eyes with him and dropped two ice-cold words. "Another. One." Doug froze in his tracks. All right then." Instantly, the ice melted, and that familiar, gentle look returned to Wendy's eyes. "I promise, the new office won't be a downgrade. I'll have the staff scrub it spotless for you." But the second the two of them stepped out into the hallway, "Senior Wendy! Wendy!" Two voices rang out from behind them in perfect unison. Heads snapped toward the doorway in pure shock. Standing there in gold-rimmed glasses and a razor-sharp suit, Shane Lowell looked perfectly polished, like a fresh Ivy League graduate. Right next to him was Caleb Shaw, slouching in a faded, worn-out t-shirt. Wendy Quinn's jaw practically hit the floor as she looked back and forth between them. Totally dazed, she stammered. What are you both doing here? Shane stepped forward with total confidence. Ethan Carter sent me a text yesterday. He said you were severely short-staffed and begged me to come help out. I got my things in order and rushed straight over today. Let me guess, Ethan finally proved useless? I told you ages ago, his education is an absolute joke. He belongs at home playing house husband. Leave the real business matters to me. Wendy winced, feeling incredibly awkward. But at the end of the day, he was her college junior, the guy who had actually saved her back in the day. She couldn't just tell him off. Swallowing her pride, she turned toward Caleb. And you? Caleb scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Well, yesterday my brother-in-law, he texted me too. He said I was graduating soon and desperately needed real-world experience. He told me you already agreed to let me intern here to build my resume. A massive, throbbing headache hit Wendy like a freight train. The three guys Ethan Carter despised more than anyone on earth had just been hand-delivered to her front door. By Ethan himself! Even though her heart still ached for Ethan, right now, all she could do was grit her teeth and hiss two furious words. That absolute bastard. And right behind her back, pure venom flashed in Doug's eyes. Damn you to hell, Ethan Carter. The second I locked down my spot next to Wendy, you are dead meat. Meanwhile, I couldn't care less about their little drama. I was hauling a massive backpack crammed with sentimental junk the plot forced me to buy, munching happily on some street food I actually loved. Just chilling leisurely by the side of the road. Let's see. We've got a childhood first love dragging a kid around, a pathetic-looking junior playing the innocent, harmless puppy dog, and a broke college kid who sends half-naked selfies to his sugar mommy sponsor. Every single one of them was toxic and selfish to the core. This was going to be epic. Wendy's company was officially a gathering of legends. An absolute circus of clowns. I couldn't hold back a massive grin. My dear, sweet wife, enjoy this little sniper shot from your husband 1,000 miles away. I tipped my head back and laughed like a total maniac. Screw this author and their stupid script. Let's see if your precious plot crashes and burns now. Totally ignoring whatever meltdown Wendy was having, I was riding a massive high. I kept walking south when my phone suddenly buzzed. Caller ID. Wendy Quinn. I hit answer, and she instantly exploded. Ethan Carter. What exactly are you playing at? What do you mean? I replied. Where are you? Are you done playing your little games? Get your ass home, right now. Stop throwing a tantrum, Wendy. I sighed. I've only been gone a few days, plus I'm still incredibly pissed off. Then why the hell did you dump all three of them at my company? She shrieked. What exactly do you mean by that? I played dumb. What, 3? I thought it was just Doug, but before she could start ranting again, I cut her off right on time. Wendy, you really never listen to a word I say, do you? I warned you. When we talk, do not bring up those 3 parasites. Beep, beep, beep. I hung up right in her face. Don't you love them so much? Well, I wrapped them all up in a neat little package just for you. Take your sweet time and enjoy the circus. Smirking, I hit block on Wendy's number. No rush at all. Let the bullets fly for a while. Wendy had only wanted to answer my final question, but all she got was a dead dial tone. She furiously hit redial, fully expecting it to connect just like it always did. But the line just kept beeping. It was only then that the harsh reality hit her. I had completely blocked her number. Boiling with rage, she raised her hand to smash her phone into pieces, but froze when she saw our old couple photo on the lock screen. She just couldn't bring herself to shatter it. Instead, she tossed it onto her desk and slumped into her office chair, seething with anger. Right at that tense moment, her 3 little orbiters, Doug, Shane Lowell, and Caleb Shaw, barged into the room together. Doug didn't waste a second. Wendy. 1. About our workspace. The 3 of us are way too cramped in there. If Ethan Carter's office is off limits, how about I move into yours? We could even discuss company business together, he added with a smirk, while the other 2 exchanged a very hostile glare. Shane Lowell immediately stepped up. Hold on, I should be the one to move in. Doug drags his kid around everywhere. Handling work matters is super inconvenient for him. Plus, he's always distracted taking care of the kid. We should really be considerate and just give him flexible hours, Shane sneered. Caleb Shaw, however, played the innocent card. Boss, Wendy, I just want to learn the ropes from you directly. Why don't you let me move in so I can be your personal student? Doug instantly cut them both off. You two are way too immature. You have absolutely no idea how to take care of a woman. I'm the only one mature enough to share this space. Wendy Quinn stared at the three grown men squabbling in front of her, and her migraine instantly doubled. Suddenly, her bitter resentment toward me, Ethan Carter, flared up even hotter than before. You see, because she had pettily sealed off my old office and forbidden anyone from using it, these three opportunists saw their chance to get closer to her. They had been forced to cram into a tiny makeshift room she had reluctantly set up. But the moment they realized I was officially gone from the company, their greedy ambitions skyrocketed. Every single one of them was desperate to suck up and perform like a loyal lapdog in front of Wendy. Wendy's mind was an absolute chaotic mess. Listen, you all just joined the company, and you don't know the first thing about our operations. For right now, just focus on learning how things actually work around here. I will assign your official positions later, completely based on your actual performance. With that, Wendy dialed her internal line and dragged her special assistant into the mess. She dumped a pile of tasks on the three men, ordering them to get into the workflow immediately. If they needed to learn, they better learn. If they needed to work, they better start sweating. The three of them were shooed away, desperate to complain but forced to share that cramped little room. Only then did Wendy finally let out an exhausted sigh. Desperate, she snatched up her phone and tried calling me again, but the line was as dead as our relationship. Her mood violently crashed to rock bottom. Meanwhile, on a train heading south, I was casually calculating my newly acquired wealth. Thinking it over, even with a fat bank account, I couldn't just sit around like a couch potato and burn through my cash forever. I still needed a solid hustle. But honestly, combing through the memories of both my past and present lives, I didn't have any crazy world-changing skills. Slaving away in a cubicle as a corporate workhorse, or breaking my back delivering packages? Yeah, absolutely not my vibe anymore. At the very least, I was officially a rich man now. There was zero reason to subject myself to that kind of miserable grind. Pondering my options, a sudden laugh escaped my lips. I could write web novels. As the old saying goes, wherever you fall, that is exactly where you get back up. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling, intensely curious to see if this parallel world even had a web novel industry. And wouldn't you know it, they totally did. But the market was incredibly barren compared to the golden age of my previous life. There was a massive shortage of those short, punchy, brain-rotting masterpieces. Wasn't this the ultimate golden opportunity just waiting for me? Following the sacred golden rule of trashy fiction, no one reads it unless someone gets cheated on, and no one shares it unless it's completely outrageous. I made my choice. In this new world, I would reign supreme as a trash-tier novelist. The domineering CEO falls for me. The domineering CEO falls for a single dad. The domineering CEO falls for a single dad and gets absolutely destroyed emotionally. I was going to write every single unhinged trope, and I would crank the drama up to 11. Just imagining the chaos made my blood pump with sheer excitement. These were foolproof, money-printing formulas from my past life. Once the readers got hooked and the traffic exploded, the cash would just roll right in. By this point, Wendy Quinn was tossed completely to the back of my mind. I couldn't care less about her right now. Knowing those three clowns, she had enough migraines to deal with anyway. With my master plan set, I didn't hesitate for a single second. I bought a first-class ticket, boarded the high-speed train, and continued my journey south. My ultimate destination? A quiet, breezy little seaside town where nobody knew my name. Growing up landlocked, I always dreamed of seeing the ocean one day. But my past life as a corporate beast of burden taught me a cruel lesson. I never had the time, and I never had the cash. The blood-sucking capitalists brainwashed me into believing that every waking second of my life belonged to the company. They expected me to network for new clients even in my sleep. Well, a massive middle finger to that. And honestly, the most important reason of all, I freaking love seafood. It took several days to finally reach my destination. Along the journey, I picked up a few extra things that my memories reminded me of, then quickly settled in. The landlord's kids had all packed up and moved to the big cities, leaving this cozy little courtyard totally abandoned for a long time. Surprisingly, it was still neat and well kept. I was only renting it for the short term, figuring that once the dust settled, I would actually think about making this place my permanent home. The courtyard was spotlessly clean, practically overflowing with rustic southern charm. Taking a deep breath, the salty, damp scent carried by the ocean breeze instantly washed away all my exhaustion. Every single morning, I would wake up bright and early, following the locals out to dig for fresh clams and crabs right at low tide. Then, I would buy whatever the fishing village caught that day, haul it back, and treat myself to an absolute feast. Honestly, life was unbelievably perfect. My golden days of pure freedom had finally kicked off, and I did not even care about my novel writing anymore. In both my past and present lives, I had never tasted this kind of absolute freedom. I had all the time in the world. I had piles of cash. Man, just how many people did I save in my past life to score a jackpot like this? Wait, no, that is completely wrong. In my last life, I literally worked myself into an early grave. Meanwhile, back in the city, Wendy Lily is feeling awful again. "Hurry up and come check on her!" Doug yelled from the doorway. Wendy Quinn slowly turned her head, sporting massive dark bags under her eyes. She was just dragging her feet to go help when Shane chimed in. "Senior, the old wound on my back is killing me again. Could you take a look and rub some ointment on it for me?" Seriously? That scratch was like 5 or 6 years old. How the heck was it still hurting? It was painfully obvious that Shane Lowell just saw Doug trying to monopolize Wendy's attention and threw a petty tantrum to steal her back. Wendy stared awkwardly at Doug upstairs, then glanced down at Shane right beside her. But wait, crash! A massive noise erupted behind her. Oh, perfect. The whole circus was in town. Caleb Shaw had miraculously tripped over nothing. A glass lay totally shattered across the floor. A tiny shard had barely grazed the back of his hand. "Oh my God! I am so sorry, Wendy. I did not mean to. I am just so clumsy. Please do not worry about little old me." Here is the hilarious part. After the three of them were crammed into the same tiny company office because Shane and Caleb were broke newbies in the city with nowhere to sleep, they totally played the "we need to save money" card and forcefully moved themselves right into Wendy Quinn's house. Not wanting to lose his grip, Doug dragged his kid along, claiming he was there to take care of Wendy. Boom, he moved in too. Ever since that nightmare started, Wendy had not experienced a single second of peace living under the same roof as these three clowns. She was losing her mind. Day in and day out, stupid, totally accidental disasters just kept piling up. Wendy was honestly starting to wonder if her house was cursed. When Ethan Carter was around, things were never this chaotic. Was it possible that these three losers were just pure bad luck, and Ethan had been the anchor holding her entire life together? One day, it would be Lily faking sick, so Wendy had to play nurse. The next, Shane would suddenly forget how to do his job and demand private tutoring, while Caleb would use late-night studying as an excuse to completely invade her space. And of course, he would accidentally on purpose flex his muscles every single time. Wendy spent her days wandering around like a sleep-deprived zombie. She just could not process it. Why was Doug, her childhood friend, acting like a giant, selfish jerk? Why did his warm, comforting smile suddenly look so incredibly fake? Why was she feeling absolutely zero chemistry with the junior apprentice who supposedly saved her life? And what about that sponsored kid? She used to think he was this bright, hard-working, absolute ray of sunshine. So why did he feel like a toxic, manipulative snake now? Yeah, the exact kind of two-faced trash people warned her about. Her entire view of these three had flipped a complete 180 degrees. She was just too stubborn to admit it out loud. But honestly, there was no mystery here. Those three scumbags had always been incredibly selfish. In the original storyline, they each took turns showing up individually to torture my past self into the dirt. Under their constant bullying and gaslighting, the old me totally lost his mind, laying all his weaknesses bare for them to exploit. My reputation tanked so hard in Wendy's eyes that those three just had to sit back, fan the flames, and effortlessly steal the win. But this time, nobody saw my wild card coming. I completely ditched their toxic circle and started playing sniper from a safe distance. And when you lock three raging narcissists in the same room, their toxic traits just amplify into infinity. Without me acting as their punching bag, they had no choice but to tear each other apart. The harder they tried to play their little games, the faster their masks would completely shatter. If Wendy ever figured out what they were actually plotting, considering all the hell my past self went through, man, I almost wanted to hold a moment of silence for those fools. But honestly, why should I give a damn? Watching them suffer was pure, unadulterated comedy. I stared at the live surveillance feed on my phone, happily tearing into a massive, freshly grilled squid. On the screen, Wendy Quinn's face was twisting into an absolutely glorious storm of rage. I figured it was finally time to pull the trigger and hand over the bullets. I posted 3 absolute masterpiece stories on my social media feed, right in a row. The first one? My wife's first love returned to the country, so I don't want her anymore. The second? At the celebration banquet, she made me apologize to her assistant, so I don't want her anymore. And the third? Since she likes that poor student so much, I don't want her anymore. 3 completely fabricated stories, all sharing the exact same title, I don't want her anymore. These were my latest works, the bait I planned to test out right here. Letting my dear wife get a little sneak peek first wasn't asking too much, right? I adjusted the privacy settings so only Wendy Quinn could see them. Then, I casually tossed my phone aside and went right back to devouring my food. Man, this is so good. Knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, someone started pounding on the door. Ethan! Hey, Ethan, are you home? I quickly wiped my mouth with a napkin. Coming! I'm coming! When I opened the door, it was a new buddy I had just made in this neighborhood. Just like my old self, he was a delivery guy, hustling day in and day out. After I moved here, I ordered a bunch of things online, buying the laptop and all the daily necessities I needed. This guy had delivered every single one of those packages. He was steady, totally reliable, and got the mission accomplished every single time. Honestly, looking at him was like looking at a mirror of my former self. After I left him several 5-star reviews in a row, we gradually became pretty close friends. His name was Kyle Reed. Sure, he looked gentle and refined on the outside, but once you really got to know him, his mouth was dirty beyond belief. Because of that, I straight up gave him the nickname, Trouble. And believe me, that nickname fit him perfectly. What's going on, man? You off work already? Not yet, he sighed. The performance assessment is based on road zone time now. Even after finishing all my deliveries, I still have to hang around the designated road zone just to rack up my active time. I had nowhere else to go, so I came to hide out at your place for a while. I scoffed. Seriously? Another new corporate trick? Yeah. It's all garbage ideas cooked up by those bored office bastards. They literally have nothing better to do. They just can't stand seeing us workhorses relax or live well. Work hard, boys. Next year, I'll get you guys a new sister-in-law. That's their mindset. I laughed. Ha ha, yeah, that's the spirit. If we don't work ourselves to the bone, we're not true brothers, right? Exactly. Frontline pay gets slashed 3 times a year. Meanwhile, they add 18 extra stars to the office staff's pay. And then, with their totally shameless faces, they announce to the public that our wages have gone up. Man, all workhorses under heaven really are one big miserable family. Ha ha, hey, just wait until Brother Ray finishes talking. Suddenly, he rushed straight out the door and darted outside. Hey, Ethan, did your family move? Just now, over at Building 8, Unit 1, Room 502 in the district, I saw your wife. They were calling out, Honey, where is your home? Did you guys secretly buy a new apartment? Aren't you moving a little too fast? Just now, she was still over there. And now she's, Hey, listen to this stupid mouth of mine. Maybe I just saw wrong. With that, he quickly zipped right back inside. Then, he quickly closed the door, turned around, and winked at me. That guy reported me 3 times. I handed the package to someone in his family, and he had the nerve to say, I never called him. Only later did I find out that the idiot had bought something for his mistress and accidentally filled in his own home address. I understood the situation instantly, and I let out a wicked, knowing chuckle right along with him. Aren't you afraid someone is going to get back at you for pulling a stunt like that? I asked. Afraid of what? He scoffed. I'm quitting at the end of the month anyway. This job is completely exhausting and full of crap. Then, do you have a new goal in mind? He saw the giant squid I had cooked up and didn't stand on ceremony at all. He immediately picked it up and started stuffing his face. Do you think I could do food live streams? Heat up the oil, toss in some scallions, ginger, and garlic, and stir-fry until it's super fragrant. Then add the fresh seafood and stir-fry it some more. Add some soy sauce and water, cover the pot, and once it's cooked, lift the lid. Then I just start eating like crazy on camera while selling seafood. I'm a local here, after all. My family actually owns a boat. It's just that my dad and my older brother are the ones running it right now. I figured I could do food live streams and help them sell their seafood online. Hearing that, I suddenly remembered that in this world, I really hadn't seen many short videos or streamers focusing on this specific niche. Since that market hadn't blown up yet, I immediately became super interested. Sure. Honestly, you've got a pretty solid idea there. When are you planning on doing it? I'll definitely come join in on the fun. More importantly, I'll gladly help you taste test all the food. I'll give it a try in a couple of days. Just look at this life. It was shaping up to be another absolutely perfect day. Though, Wendy Quinn definitely wouldn't agree with my idea of a good time. I had only gone half a day without checking in on her. And those three unlucky bastards, not only had they skipped work, but they were all cooped up together at her home. And somehow, they had all managed to roll down the stairs one right after another. Doug claimed that when he was on the stairs, he felt someone violently push him from behind, lost his footing, and went tumbling down. Caleb immediately defended himself. "Hey, it wasn't me. I was a victim here too." And Shane chimed in, "I just wanted to grab both of them to help. I totally didn't expect them to drag me down with them." In short, it was a complete mess, and all three of them had taken a nasty dive down the stairs. But of course, no one actually knew who had pushed whom. Now, all three of them were sitting there, bruised, battered, and looking completely pathetic. Meanwhile, deep in Doug's heart, he was cursing, "Damn it, I used way too much force. That actually hurt a little." But in the other two men's hearts, they were viciously thinking, "Why didn't you just fall to your death?" The three of them lay strapped to their hospital beds, groaning and whining like absolute babies. All of their eyes locked onto Wendy Quinn, practically begging for her attention. But Wendy looked like a total wreck, with dark bags under her eyes dragging almost all the way down to her mouth. She didn't have a single ounce of energy left in her body. She just stared back at the three of them, completely dead inside and totally blank. She shifted her empty gaze to Lily. "What exactly did you see?" she asked. Lily just leaned against Doug's bed and burst into loud, ugly tears, sobbing, "My daddy hurt so much." Wendy totally gave up trying to question them. She just turned to the nurse and sighed, "Please, just help me hire a few full-time caregivers." Then, completely ignoring those pathetic, expectant puppy dog eyes behind her, she spun around and bolted like she was running for her life. But Wendy didn't head to her company. Instead, she went straight home. Rather than sprawling out carelessly on the sofa like she usually did, she curled herself up into a tight, miserable little ball in the corner. All of a sudden, a massive wave of insecurity and panic washed over her. It was painfully obvious now. Those three guys she used to put above everything else in her heart, even combined, they couldn't give her a fraction of the safety and security she felt with just one man, Ethan Carter. She felt like her entire world had become one giant, twisted bag of lies, but she didn't dare tear it open. She was terrified of finding the absolute filthiest, darkest secrets hiding inside. Trembling, she pulled out her phone. She desperately needed to call Ethan. Then it hit her. Ethan had already blocked her everywhere. But that wasn't going to stop her. She had already forced her assistant to go out and buy 20 different SIM cards just for this. She frantically swapped one in and dialed Ethan's number. A crisp, cheerful male voice answered the phone. She could instantly tell he was in a fantastic mood. It even sounded like he was happily munching on something. "Hello? Who is this?" "Ethan Carter at your absolute service." He was actually in the mood to joke around. The corner of Wendy's exhausted, dark-circled face twitched in disbelief. "Ethan, it's me, Wendy." "Ethan, when are you coming back? I miss you so much," she pleaded. "Well, I haven't had quite enough fun yet. I suddenly feel like the world is just so incredibly big," I replied. "I suddenly feel like my journey no longer has an end," I told her. "Ethan, I really, truly miss you, Ethan," she sobbed. "Are you planning on never coming back?" she cried. I honestly wanted to tell her yes, but I didn't dare say it out loud. I was terrified she would completely snap and come chasing after me right then and there. So, I decided to play the part and comfort her. Wendy, back when I begged you to stay away from Doug, you told me I was totally misunderstanding things. You called me petty. When I warned you to look closely and see through Shane's real intentions, you told me my own heart was just dirty and toxic. You said that because my heart was dirty, everything I looked at seemed filthy too. And when I pointed out that Caleb was sending you half-naked pictures and that it was totally disrespectful to our marriage, you claimed I was blowing things out of proportion. You said I was just bullying a kid. But then, the problem just kept escalating. Whenever I dared to bring up a single concern about those guys, it instantly became my fault. I was always the bad guy who just wasn't generous enough. I was always the one who apparently didn't know how to share. But let me ask you this, Wendy. Is love honestly something you can just share around? If love isn't exclusive to one person, then how the hell is it any different from a public restroom where people just come and go as they please? Nobody wants something that's been dirtied and used up, especially not something as precious as true feelings. Remember when we tied that love lock together at the top of the mountain? We made all those beautiful wishes for our future right there under the blazing sunrise. Back by the school lake, we used to hold each other so tightly, just pouring our deepest hearts out to one another. And in that heavy, falling snow, we leaned on each other. We walked hand in hand, supported one another through everything, and we once loved each other so absolutely desperately. I've seen exactly what you look like when you love me with all of your heart. So, the moment you started shifting those feelings to other men, I could feel that too. Wendy, your heart had already tilted away from me, and it had tilted so incredibly far. It drifted so far that even my desperate attempts to protect my own feelings and our family were judged by you as having some twisted ulterior motives. Wendy, while I'm not right there by your side, you have to take good care of yourself. The medicine for your stomachaches and period cramps is on the second and third shelves of the medicine box. Please, when I'm not around to watch you, try to eat less spicy food. Honestly, I just don't know if those guys will actually take good care of you. I let out a soft, very convincing sniffle over the phone. Wendy, I truly loved you. You absolutely must take care of yourself now. Please don't let me lose the love of my life, lose my entire home, and then still have to hear that you're suffering. Goodbye, Wendy. Wendy Quinn listened to my entire heartbreaking speech and couldn't even form a single sentence in reply. She just kept crying endlessly, covering her mouth tightly with her trembling hand. Massive, heavy tears streamed down her face in never-ending strings of regret. When she finally managed to catch her breath and tried to speak, all she heard was the cold, dead beeping of a disconnected line. She desperately wanted to call me right back, but I was never going to answer her calls again. At that exact moment, I carelessly tossed my burner phone onto the table, grabbed another massively fat swimming crab, and aggressively started devouring it. Ah, my bad, man, I mumbled with my mouth full. My buddy Kyle just sat there, staring at me with his eyes totally bulging out of his head. Bro, were you just talking to your wife? You sounded so insanely heartbroken and deeply affectionate just a second ago, and then you just turn around and gorge yourself? His face was an absolute masterpiece of pure, unfiltered confusion. It was as if the tragic, deeply emotional husband from 2 seconds ago had instantly shapeshifted into a starving beggar who hadn't eaten a real meal in weeks. Hey, cut the crap, all right? I laughed. Hurry up and focus on planning your big food live stream. In a couple of days, I'm heading over to your place to mooch some more free meals off you. And don't you even think about trying to shortchange me. I smirked. After all, just like they've said since ancient times, true love never actually lasts anyway. They say only cheap tricks can win a heart. But Wendy Quinn was finally playing herself. She dialed his number again. Nothing. Dead silence. Swapping out SIM cards was totally pointless now. Ethan Carter was absolutely done with her. He was not picking up ever again. Gripping her phone, she desperately wanted to hire someone to track Ethan down and drag him right back to her. But then, his parting words echoed in her mind. Ethan's absolute disgust for those 3 leeches had been blindingly obvious, knowing that, even if she forcibly dragged him back kicking and screaming, he would just find another way to run. What was she supposed to do? Lock him in a basement? Yet, she still clung to her delusional filter for those 3 guys, terrified to tear it down. It was not even about romantic feelings. It was pure pride. Admitting they were trash meant admitting everything she had done for them was a massive mistake. She would look like an absolute joke. Scrolling blindly, she ended up on Ethan's social media page, desperate for any new updates on his life. And then, her jaw dropped. "What the hell was this?" The post read, "Since she loves that broke student so much, I am throwing her in the trash." She stared at the screen, frantically wondering what on earth her former flame was writing about. Ethan had been her right-hand man for years. She knew how smart he was. But looking at these crazy, dramatic titles, what the heck was he smoking? She swallowed her urge to laugh and mock him. Deep down, she had to remind herself, this is Ethan. This was Ethan pouring his real, raw emotions into a wild story. She clicked the first link, and a terrifying new world opened right before her eyes. Story number 1. The female lead's first love uses his own kid as a pawn, brilliantly manipulating her into a corner. The loyal male lead is forced to donate his corneas, completely losing his sight for her sake. In the end, the childhood sweetheart ships the female lead overseas with a bunch of expensive gifts. And only then does she finally wake the hell up. But by then, the male lead is already gone. Then came story number 2, the assistant arc. Here, the scheming assistant makes the male lead's life an absolute living hell, while the clueless female lead turns a total blind eye. The male lead humbly begs for her to listen, only for her to look at him with pure disgust. So, the male lead finally snaps. He cuts off all his feelings, builds his own empire, goes completely ruthless, and isolates her entirely. He even joins forces with the second female lead to build a perfect family, leaving the deceived heroine rotting all alone in an empty room. Then came the third story, the one about the sponsored, broke student. This charity case develops some seriously twisted feelings for his benefactor, while the female lead plays right along under the excuse of just looking out for him. She completely ignores the male lead's desperate warnings. Ultimately, the psycho student schemes to drug her. And of course, when she finally wakes up and runs back to find the male lead, the humiliated student completely snaps, pulling a knife on them. To save the male lead, the female lead takes multiple stab wounds to the gut. A brutal, tragic ending. Staring at the screen after finishing all 3 stories, the smirk completely vanished from Wendy's face. The writing might have been crude and simple, but looking at how perfectly it mirrored her reality, it was downright terrifying. Because right at that exact moment, Wendy realized those 3 stories perfectly matched the 3 leeches in her life. Connecting the dots, she violently wanted to deny it, but she could not look away anymore. Every single creepy detail from Ethan's stories was screaming inside her head. One specific line from the text haunted her. "Flies do not swarm around an egg without cracks. You might not have cheated, but you threw the door wide open for them. Every ounce of this misery, you brought it entirely on yourself." Meanwhile, miles away, the 3 guys lying in the hospital ward were showing their true colors. "Wash those grapes and bring them here," Doug barked from his hospital bed, treating his young daughter Lily like absolute dirt. Lily kept her head down, meekly plucking the grapes from the nightstand one by one, getting ready to wash them for him. From the next bed over, Shane Lowell scoffed. "Hey, Doug, is that your kid or your maid? Whenever Wendy is around, you act like Father of the Year." "Who knew you were such a tyrant when she wasn't watching?" Doug just sneered back. "She is my kid. I can use her however I want to. What the hell does it matter to you? Keep your mouth shut, Shane, before I make you shut it." Over on the third bed, Caleb Shaw burst into a mocking laugh. "Oh, look at the big tough guy. You are going to deal with us? Who do you even think you are? You are just an old loser dragging a brat around. Does that make you feel special?" Smirking, Caleb lifted his wrist and started blatantly waving his shiny new watch in their faces. He pretended to check the time, but he was totally flexing. "See this beauty? This was Wendy's birthday gift to me. Do either of you broke losers have one?" Doug and Shane both shut up, completely bitter. Sure, Wendy helped them out, but she never showered them with cold, hard cash or luxury goods like that. Because right when the plot finally caught up to me, I ripped it out by the roots before it even had a chance to officially begin. And that flashy watch Caleb Shaw was parading around? It was nothing but a cheap hand-me-down Wendy Quinn had originally bought for me, something I'd already tossed aside like garbage. She actually re-gifted my sloppy seconds to him as a birthday present. The idiot had absolutely no clue it was a used piece, even though in my past life, I had fought tooth and nail to stop her from giving it away. Back then, Wendy had the nerve to call me narrow-minded, using every petty gaslighting trick in the book to completely shut my past self up. Meanwhile, in that stifling hospital room, the two scheming men were entirely wrapped up in their own toxic thoughts. Shane Lowell sneered, shooting Caleb a disgustingly mocking look. What? You really think her throwing some spare change your way means she actually gives a damn about you? If that's the case, didn't Ethan Carter get the absolute royal treatment compared to the rest of us? Cold, hard cash, flashy sports cars, limited edition watches, and tailored designer suits, he had it all. But look where he is now. Who she actually ends up with is still a total toss-up. So what exactly are you so damn proud of? Take a good look in the mirror, buddy. You're just another broke, pathetic loser. You're living off someone's charity, yet you have the nerve to try and crawl into your benefactor's bed. I really wonder how disgusted Wendy will be when she finds out what a sleazeball you really are. Shut your filthy mouth, Shane, Caleb snapped back. Wendy and I have a completely pure, strictly sibling-like bond. It's not what you think. Give me a break. We're all grown men here. You honestly expect us to buy that innocent act? We know exactly how pure you really are. Why are you playing the sweet, innocent boy next door? Just looking at your fake face makes me want to throw up. Hearing this, Doug let out a loud, mocking laugh from the sidelines. Wow, listen to you acting all high and mighty, Shane. You make it sound like you're some perfectly normal, upstanding guy yourself. You use a single favor to guilt-trip her into paying you back, playing the weak, fragile victim. Shane's face instantly turned an ugly shade of green as he glared murderously at Doug. I didn't do a damn thing to offend you, did I? You're a grown man dragging a kid around, begging to be kept like a pet. Now that is truly pitiful. Honestly, you might as well pack it up, go home, and raise your kid properly. Who knows? Maybe you can sell her off for a good price someday. Right beside Doug, little Lily, who had been quietly eating grapes, suddenly grabbed her plate and marched right out of the room. She took a wide detour, and right as she passed Shane Lowell's bed, her foot magically slipped. With a sharp yank, she ripped the IV tube straight out of his hand. Crimson blood instantly gushed backward and splattered everywhere. What the hell? You vicious little brat! Shane scrambled to cover his bleeding hand, screaming every curse word in the book. Doug just threw his head back and roared with laughter. But before Shane could completely lose his mind, Doug's phone started buzzing. Doug smirked, casually picking up his phone and flashing Shane a cocky zip-it gesture. It was a call from their company's finance department. Listen, the assistant's voice came through sharp and cold. We've uncovered some serious red flags regarding the funds in several of your recent projects. You need to get your ass back to the office right this second to cooperate with the investigation. Are you kidding me? I'm literally sick in a hospital bed right now, Doug shot back. But the person on the line was quickly losing patience. I told you to get here. You better march in here immediately. If the big boss catches wind of this mess, I promise you, things are going to end horribly for you. Doug suddenly remembered the bone-chilling way Wendy Quinn had been looking at him lately. Just the memory of her dead, terrifying eyes sent a violent shiver down his spine. All right. I'm heading over right now. He scrambled out of bed, shooting a nasty hand gesture back at Shane. You just wait right here until I get back. Shane flipped him the bird right back. Look at you acting like a big shot. Go be a good little assistant. Try not to get your useless ass fired, you absolute waste of space. Meanwhile, Caleb Shaw sat quietly on the third bed, watching the two idiots go at it. But his dark, calculating eyes showed he was scheming something completely different. At that exact moment, Wendy Quinn had just finished binge-reading every single one of Ethan Carter's chilling short stories. She mentally lined up the three men, comparing them to the three absolutely irredeemable villains in Ethan's gritty tales. A terrifying realization hit her like a freight train. She had been so unbelievably careless. A freezing cold sweat broke out across her back. There was no way in hell she could keep living in this house. Panicked, she packed up and bolted to one of her private safe houses. She needed to sit down, tear her life apart, and seriously reevaluate exactly what she was going to do with those three leeches. Even though Ethan's stories were written in a very raw, straightforward, and no-nonsense style. You could even call his writing crude. But the terrifying part was that every single plot twist directly mirrored the exact people creeping around her real life. Up until now, she had looked at those three men through rose-tinted glasses, seeing them as tragic survivors, lifesavers, and hard-working underdogs. But what if those flawless filters were just a carefully crafted illusion they wanted her to see? If the ugly truth hiding underneath those masks was something she couldn't even comprehend, then she was in unimaginable danger. She thought about the horrifying drugging plot from his story. If she let her guard down for even a second and took a spiked drink from any one of them, she would absolutely fall for it. The sheer horror of the thought made her blood run freezing cold. If the worst actually happened under those circumstances, how would Ethan Carter react? The man who had once worshipped the ground she walked on. The man who had loved her more than his own life. A love that was carved deep into his very bones. If he ever found out about that kind of nightmare, their relationship would be shattered beyond repair. And if she lost him, what would she really be losing? She would be losing the entire world she had once fiercely believed in. Mentally and physically drained to the core, Wendy finally collapsed into a deep, exhausted sleep. An unknown amount of time passed before the jarring ring of her cell phone violently jolted her awake. Groggy and completely disoriented, she fumbled to answer the call. Caleb Shaw's voice crackled through the phone, thick with fake innocence. "Wendy, I just feel like I'm falling behind. My skills aren't sharp enough. I'm studying my heart out, but I'm just not getting it. I think I need to hit the books harder and build a better foundation. So, I'm thinking about heading back to school for a bit, just to study under my professors for a while longer. Could you come back and see me off?" Wendy Quinn, barely awake, mumbled a groggy agreement. "Sure." Caleb's voice instantly spiked with excitement. "Wendy, I'll wait for you at home. I'm gonna go pack my stuff right now." Wendy just grunted in response. The call ended, but her heavy thumb accidentally pressed down on the power button. The screen went black as the phone slipped onto the mattress, and she instantly fell right back into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, over at the hospital, Shane Lowell stared at the empty beds next to him. Doug had already bolted back to the office to put out some fires, and right after his IV drip finished, Caleb pulled the exact same excuse about needing to handle company business and vanished too. Shane's eyes narrowed as a suspicious glint flashed in them. Doug being called back made sense. But Caleb? That kid couldn't even look him in the eye when he left. He was definitely scheming something shady. Besides, rotting in a hospital bed was a waste of time, and his injuries were barely a scratch anyway. So, he threw on his clothes and checked himself right out. When he finally unlocked the front door and stepped into the house, the living room was completely empty. The only sound was the soft splashing of water coming from the bathroom. Then, he spotted a cup of milk tea sitting on the coffee table, right in Wendy's favorite flavor. Shane's mouth suddenly went completely dry. He glanced toward the bathroom door, listening to the running water, and then stared back at that cup of milk tea. Wendy was definitely in there taking a shower. A sudden heat flared up in his chest, his youthful body instantly reacting to the thought. Man, he had been craving this woman for way too long. Even back in their school days, he had straight up orchestrated an accident just to get close to her. Sure, he botched the stunt and actually got himself hurt in the process. But hey, it worked. He got into her inner circle. The problem was, she seriously only saw him as her sweet little lifesaver. She would bend over backward to give him whatever he asked for, but the second he hinted at wanting to actually date her, complete radio silence. But today was different. It was just the two of them alone in the house, and she was in the shower. He honestly felt a wild urge to just bust the door down. Craving a distraction, he grabbed the milk tea, pulled the straw out, and took a long sip. A sly smirk crept onto his lips. Did that technically count as an indirect kiss? When she finally came out, he'd just play dumb and act like he hadn't touched it. She wouldn't even notice. Feeling bold, he put the straw back in the cup and took another eager sip. So, this was the flavor she was obsessed with. Unable to help himself, he gulped down a few more mouthfuls. Wow, it was incredibly sweet. He savored the taste for a second, but then, a strange, intense heat began boiling in his veins. Drawn by some magnetic pull, he couldn't stop himself from creeping closer to the bathroom door. Wendy was right there, entirely vulnerable. His mind was racing with dark, obsessive thoughts he could barely keep a lid on. He crept right up to the door and pressed his ear flat against the wood. He listened to the splashing water, his heart pounding, and then the door swung open. A voice from inside called out, "Wendy?" And there stood Caleb Shaw, completely butt naked, his face flushed bright red, staring right back at him. Shane froze. Caleb froze. Both of them just stood there in absolute, mind-shattering shock. Miles away, Wendy was jolted awake by cars aggressively honking outside her window. She angrily flipped over and sat up. Who the hell was being so loud? She just wanted one good nap. Completely disoriented about the time, she blindly reached for her phone, only to realize the screen was dead. She quickly booted it back up. The second it loaded, her screen exploded with a dozen missed calls, and shockingly, they were all from Ethan Carter. Text messages and social media alerts started blowing up her phone one after another. Every single one had been sent an hour ago. The message was basically one frantic scream. "Do not go home. Do not drink that milk tea. Are you listening to me? Text me back. Are you dead? I said do not go home. Do you hear me?" Even reading it through a cracked screen, Wendy could practically feel Ethan's desperate panic. A heavy sense of dread washed over her. With her heart racing, she immediately dialed his number. Ethan didn't waste a single breath on pleasantries. "Where the hell were you just now?" "I was exhausted. I just fell asleep. I'm not even staying at that place anymore. I crashed at the new house we just bought." "Oh, got it. That's fine then." And just like that beep, 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 he hung up on her. No matter how much she had been missing him, her blood instantly boiled. "Ethan Carter, are you completely out of your mind?" She aggressively called him back, only to find she was blocked. Again, furious, she chucked her phone onto the mattress, completely clueless about what was even happening. No way, no Evan to the row, no ever D, no Evander, no Evanis, no Evan D, Doug's name flashing. "Wendy, where are you right now? Can you rush back home for a second?" Wendy's instincts flared up like a siren. Just an hour ago, Ethan had been screaming at her to stay away from the house. Now, Doug was begging her to hurry back. What the hell kind of disaster had happened over there? And more importantly, how did Ethan know about it before anyone else? She slapped her thigh as it all suddenly clicked. Ethan's phone was hooked up to the home's hidden security cameras. That absolute jerk had been secretly watching her make a fool of herself this whole time. Without wasting another second, she grabbed her clothes and sprinted all the way home. She had to know what the hell could have triggered such a frantic reaction from Ethan Carter. But the moment she pulled up to the house, Doug's bizarre expression set off major alarm bells. The guy looked like he was fighting back a smirk, hiding it behind this painfully fake, awkward grimace. Well, Wendy, I really don't know how to break this to you," he started. "Honestly, I think you need to see this for yourself, but maybe you shouldn't?" What an absolute load of garbage. Wendy Quinn didn't have time for his games. She shoved him out of the way with one hand. Honestly, it surprised even her. Sure, it was just a casual push, but the old Wendy never would have been so bold. Doug, on the other hand, didn't seem to mind the rough treatment one bit. He slapped on this pained, sympathetic look, but the corners of his mouth were practically twitching to form a smile. No matter how you sliced it, the guy was oozing with malicious intent. Bracing herself, Wendy took a deep breath and stepped right up to the door. With Doug's creepy vibe burning a hole in her back and Ethan's frantic texts echoing in her mind, she slowly pushed the door open. But the second her eyes processed the absolute horror show inside, her composure shattered. She slammed that door shut instantly. She whipped around to face Doug, her jaw practically hitting the floor in pure, unadulterated shock. Losing her mind for a second, she actually cracked the door open again to make sure she wasn't hallucinating. That was a mistake. This time, she didn't even bother closing it. She just spun on her heels and bolted. She barely made it to the flower bed before dropping to her knees and dry heaving violently. It was just too damn traumatizing. Those two inside were completely, unapologetically, they were going at it like wild street dogs in the middle of spring. Wendy Quinn gagged, dry heaving so hard her knees buckled. Oh, this house definitely had to go. That was the only crystal clear thought in Wendy's head right then. Doug rushed over, panicking. "Wendy? Oh my God, are you okay? Wendy!" She barely managed to straighten up, shooting him an absolute death glare. "How long have you been standing here, Doug? Why didn't you stop them and call me immediately?" "Why?" Doug stammered. looking like a deer in headlights. I just wanted you to see exactly what kind of people they really are. Those two are total scum. Wendy, you need to stay far away from them. Wendy let out a dry, miserable laugh. Is that really the point here? You stood there watching them, but did absolutely nothing to stop it. You just sat back and let this whole sick freak show happen. Doug tried to defend his twisted logic. I was afraid interrupting them like that might cause them physical harm. Enough, Doug, Wendy snapped, her voice colder and more formal than it had ever been before. I have absolutely no idea what's going on in that twisted head of yours, but I'm starting to get the picture. Let me be clear, you and I, it is never going to happen. I don't care what kind of garbage humans they are, there is no us. And starting right now, stop letting Lily call me mommy. Doug blinked. Wendy, what do you mean? Exactly what I said. My brain must have been on a permanent vacation when I ever agreed to that. Well, it's back now. We are going right back to the way things should be. Because honestly, no matter what sick stuff they were doing in there, shouldn't your very first human instinct have been to put a stop to it? But no. Instead, you waited for me to walk in and watch this absolute circus. Your motives are seriously messed up, Doug. Look, we were just childhood friends. Your mom asked me to look out for you, and that was literally it. I have never, ever thought of you that way. I just saw a single dad struggling to raise a kid all by himself, and I genuinely wanted to help. But my pity is not a free pass for you to manipulate my life. Hearing this, Doug's face twisted into a mix of hurt and sudden anger. Just looking out for me? Wendy, tell me the truth. Do you really not feel anything for me at all? Wendy didn't even blink. No, never. Not even a tiny bit. What on earth could I possibly want from you? A broke widower who can barely scrape by to raise his own kid? You can't even stand on your own 2 feet. What part of you is actually worth obsessing over? Doug's expression turned pitch black. Then why did you bend over backward for me? Why did you force your own husband to cook for me? Every single time I called you crying for help, you dropped everything and came running. You practically handed me a job, and you literally made your man stay home to be a house husband. And now you're looking me in the eye, saying you don't love me? I don't buy it for a second! Wendy let out another hollow, agonizing laugh. Wow. So, this is the pathetic impression I've been giving off. I'm just the cracked egg that attracts all the flies. Fine, then let me make this crystal clear for you once and for all. Listen, every single time I bailed you out, every time I answered your desperate pleas for help, it was purely because we grew up together. It was nothing more than a simple childhood bond. Unlike the other kids back then, you actually looked out for me. You treated me just like a protective older brother would. So, I honestly didn't think there was anything wrong with lending a hand to a guy I saw as family. It really was that simple in my head. And as for making my husband, Ethan Carter, step down from his position just so you could have a job, is that really so hard to wrap your head around? Newsflash, I am absolutely loaded. Whether Ethan works or not literally makes zero difference to us. He is my husband. If he wants to spend his days fishing, reading books, or writing novels, he gets to do whatever the hell he wants, whenever he wants. He has a total free pass to spend my fortune however he pleases. My man doesn't need to lift a single finger to work. But you are a single father struggling to raise a kid, so I tossed you a lifeline with a stable job. But here is the catch. The absolute prerequisite was that you actually had to show some competence and prove you were worthy of the position. So how on earth did that give you the right to meddle in my private life? If you can't get that through your thick skull, pack your bags and get out tomorrow. Hearing this brutal reality check, Doug completely froze. Panic set in, and he instantly regretted his arrogance. He hadn't even scored any real benefits yet, and the wealthy Wendy Quinn was already 1 second away from kicking him to the curb. His blood boiled, and he hated those 2 naked bastards hiding inside the room even more. Stammering in sheer panic, he begged, "No, Wendy, wait, I was wrong. I desperately need this job. I messed up. It was all my fault. I never should have crossed the line into your personal life or your feelings. Please, don't fire me. I swear I will work hard." Wendy just glared at him coldly and snapped. "Then prove it. Get someone to pry those 2 scumbags apart and drag them to the ER. Wendy Quinn spun on her heel and walked away, completely unfazed. Behind her, Doug balled his fists in quiet rage. Meanwhile, I was glued to my phone screen, watching the whole security feed go down. Right next to me, Kyle's jaw practically hit the floor. He was so dumbstruck he couldn't even form a sentence. He just pointed at my phone screen, looking like a deer caught in headlights. Bro, this is like a freaking live-action soap opera. Earlier today, I figured I'd casually check the cameras at the house just to see what was up. The second the feed loaded, I caught Caleb Shaw straight up spiking the bubble tea. And once I heard the phone call he made right after, I knew exactly what sick game that piece of trash was trying to play. I honestly just wanted to stay out of the crossfire, but damn it all, the divorce papers weren't finalized yet. If that scumbag actually pulled this off behind my back, I'd be rocking the biggest pair of cuckold horns in history, a literal laughingstock. So, I immediately dialed up that clueless woman, Wendy Quinn. If she blindly walked right into his trap, her late-stage crazy personality would definitely kick into overdrive. And she would absolutely drag me straight down to hell with her for round 2. As God is my witness, I still had a fat stack of cash burning a hole in my pocket. There was no way I was letting my brand new good life get ruined over this drama. I had to give her a heads up. Thank God that oblivious woman had probably snooped on the exclusive stories I posted just for her on my timeline and finally put her guard up. Turns out, she wasn't a total lost cause after all. I grabbed a handful of snacks from the table and shoved them right into Kyle's open mouth. Come on, let's go. Let me see how you're prepping for this live stream. I'll help you sort it out. If you go viral, you get all the clout, and I get an all-you-can-eat seafood buffet. Sounds like a win-win to me. Honestly speaking, the locals in this little fishing village were some of the most genuine people you'd ever meet. Making their living off the rough ocean waves had totally shaped their vibe. They were loud, incredibly generous, and fiercely loyal. Kicking back with them just felt so damn comfortable. And man, that massive seafood boil. Palm-sized blue crabs, giant squid, fresh sea snails, and scallops out the wazoo. Oh my God. One bite of that feast was enough to make up for every single regret I had in my past life. We were all just eating, throwing back drinks, and cracking jokes like old buddies. At one point, they asked why a guy like me traveled all the way out to the middle of nowhere by himself. I pointed right at my plate and gave them the most honest answer possible. For a taste of this right here. Down by the coast, time just flew right by. It had been almost a whole month since the day I packed up and ran for the hills. Meanwhile, back at the corporate headquarters, Wendy Quinn was holding court in her massive office. A solid wall of muscle-bound bodyguards stood right behind her chair. Thanks to the absolute circus those 3 idiots put her through, Wendy wasn't taking any chances with her safety anymore. The 3 unlucky stooges were lined up right in the middle of the room, with Doug sulking off to the side. Shane Lowe and Caleb Shaw were front and center, heads hung in total defeat. Wendy just stared them down, her eyes as cold as absolute zero. Her stomach was doing backflips of pure disgust. But she didn't let a single micro-expression slip. The tension in that room was thick enough to cut with a chainsaw. Wendy, please, don't do this. When we are in this building, you will address me as Miss Quinn. Shane's blood ran completely cold. But, I saved your life. Oh. So he was desperate for a shortcut, trying to weaponize a past favor to extort her. Wendy just sneered. She slammed a heavy stack of documents right at Shane's trembling feet. Why don't you take a good, hard look at what really went down back then? I honestly used to think you were a decent, warm-hearted guy. I never in a million years imagined you were this utterly twisted. Just to get your foot in the door with me, you orchestrated that entire accident. You're a real piece of work, you know that? Shane gritted his teeth so hard he almost cracked a molar. Yeah, fine. I wanted to get close to you. I staged the whole damn thing, but I only did it because I was crazy about you. I just wanted a chance to be your man. Is that such a crime? Not a crime. You wrapped your sick little obsession in a fake rescue mission and guilt-tripped me into carrying your career. You sabotaged my dates with Ethan over and over again. And how many times did you run your mouth, trash-talking Ethan Carter right to my face? So what if I did? That guy doesn't deserve a woman like you. He's nothing but a gold-digging loser leeching off your money. What about me, huh? We were college sweethearts. Before another garbage word could leave his mouth, a heavy glass tumbler flew through the air, shattering violently against his skull. Wendy slowly lowered her throwing arm, her voice dripping with ice. You don't get to say a damn word about my husband. Shane stumbled back, desperately clutching his bleeding forehead. Are you freaking kidding me? You hit me? You should be thanking God that catching a glass is all I'm doing to you right now. Wendy locked eyes with the pathetic mess of a man. Shane managed to hold her gaze for exactly 1 second before his eyes darted to the floor. He was shaking like a leaf. The murderous intent in her eyes was downright terrifying. Pack your trash and get the hell out of my building. Keep your mouth firmly shut. Move to a new city and never mention my name again. Because if I hear even a whisper that you've been running your mouth about things that don't concern you, I swear to God, by tomorrow night you'll be dumped into international waters to feed the sharks. Hearing that, not just Shane, but Caleb and Doug both broke out in a frantic cold sweat. Now get out. Just 3 simple, absolutely brutal words. Shane had definitely wanted to argue back, but the sheer chill in the room froze him to his core. He scrambled on his hands and knees, practically crawling out of the executive suite. After witnessing that beatdown, Caleb Shaw stayed dead, silent, too terrified to even look up. He tucked his head down so far he was practically staring at his own zipper, shivering uncontrollably. It was like his entire body had been plunged into freezing water. Wendy Quinn's voice echoed from above, so brutally cold it felt laced with solid ice. I actually thought you were a highly motivated student. I never expected to be so completely blinded by you. I really didn't. Shane Lowe and I. We just lost control and things happened. But that only proves my orientation. It definitely doesn't mean there's anything wrong with my character. If anything, it proves I don't desire you at all. Wendy just let out a bone-chilling laugh. So, are you the top or the bottom? That blunt, crude question instantly made the air painfully awkward. Caleb Shaw was totally speechless, having no idea how to answer. The truth was, he was just desperately trying to cover up one massive lie. That cup of milk tea had been heavily drugged. Trying to act tough, he had chugged the spiked drink himself, which led to that entire mess. Now, Caleb Shaw was shaking like a leaf. He collapsed straight to his knees. Then, that terrifying, icy voice struck again. That spiked milk tea. Exactly who did you prepare it for? Caleb didn't even dare to breathe, let alone answer. Kneeling on the hard floor, he just kept slamming his head down over and over, smashing it until fresh blood poured down his face. Wendy! Wendy! I was wrong! I was so wrong! I don't know what got into me. It was my fault. It's all my fault. Do you honestly think saying I was wrong erases what you tried to do? If I had blindly fallen into your sick little trap, do you have any idea what would have happened to me? You really think a pathetic apology makes this all go away? Ever since this happened, I feel like absolutely nowhere is safe. I never want to see your face again for as long as I live. No. Wendy, please, I was so wrong. Please, just spare me. Wendy! Ignoring his pathetic cries, Wendy Quinn simply waved her hand dismissively. 2 massive bodyguards immediately grabbed Caleb by the hair, dragging his screaming body straight out of the conference room. Through all of this, Doug just stood there, completely paralyzed. He kept so incredibly quiet, it was like he didn't even exist. Watching Caleb get brutally dragged away, cold sweat had already completely soaked the shirt right under his expensive suit. Doug just stared blankly out the door, absolutely terrified to even turn his head around. We've known each other since we were kids, Wendy warned. Just raise the child well, and do your damn job properly. Do not entertain thoughts you shouldn't be having. And with that chilling final warning, the sharp click of her high heels slowly faded down the hall. The heavy footsteps of her bodyguards vanished right along with her. Only then did Doug finally dare to exhale, gasping for air like a drowning man. She was just too terrifying. But honestly, Doug was still burning with deep resentment. He had come all this way and gained absolutely nothing. He hadn't even gotten a taste of Wendy Quinn. Was he seriously going to be tossed aside just like this? Why the hell had everything fallen apart so quickly? The downward spiral definitely started the second that bastard Ethan Carter slapped him twice. Otherwise, every single time he brought the kid to this city, Wendy's special treatment toward him was blatant favoritism. Damn that Ethan Carter for letting those 2 idiots in and ruining everything. He had thrown all of his perfect plans into total chaos. Doug cursed viciously under his breath. Meanwhile, miles away, I just kept sneezing nonstop. Kyle, who was right in the middle of a live stream, shot me a look while his family hurried over. Ethan, man, are you okay? I'm totally fine. Some loudmouth out there must be cursing my name, I laughed, waving it off. Keep going, keep rolling. That's right. We had officially kicked off our live streaming business, and man, the results were insanely good. Every single day, a massive flood of orders kept shipping out. His family's own seafood supply wasn't even close to being enough anymore. We even had to step up and help sell all the fresh catches from the nearby neighbors just to meet demand. As the genius who helped set this whole thing up from start to finish, I was basically treated like local royalty by everyone in town. Every single day, I was gorging myself on endless, delicious seafood. This was the kind of laid-back, perfect life I wouldn't have ever dared to dream of in my past life. It was purely wonderful. My one and only strict rule was that they absolutely could not show my face on camera. Come on, I was way too dangerously handsome for that. Okay, the real truth? I was terrified that psycho Wendy Quinn would somehow track me down. I had no idea how the chaos on her end was playing out, but I knew one chilling fact. With her obsessive personality, if she ever locked her sights on me again, I'd have zero chance to run. Calling the cops would be completely useless, they'd just brush it off as a simple marital spat. Besides, trying to argue the law with a filthy, rich, ruthless capitalist? Yeah, better to just save my breath. So, laying low and keeping my head down was my ultimate survival strategy. Meanwhile, my grand comeback career of writing online short stories was actually going super well. I started submitting a bunch of viral short stories I vividly remembered from my past life, watching the views roll in. I even created secret burner accounts to manipulate public opinion and stir up massive drama everywhere. Every single night, I was passionately going to war with readers in the comment sections. I relentlessly trolled the overly sensitive readers just for fun. Honestly, my life right now was so unbelievably comfortable it felt like cheating. As for all that twisted romantic baggage between Wendy Quinn and me, how could that ever be more important than my own happiness and a full stomach? I'd much rather enjoy another massive bite of rich crab roe. Seriously, I'd rather slurp down 2 more fresh oysters. That was true happiness. And the best part? Wendy Quinn hadn't called me a single time since I left. Sometimes, during my lazy downtime, I'd randomly wonder if anything had actually shifted on her end. I couldn't help but wonder how those 3 unlucky, scheming bastards were doing now. But you know what they say, curiosity killed the cat. Thinking back on it, that saying makes perfect sense. I had been dragged through the mud by this insane plot for way too long. Now that I had finally fought my way out, there was absolutely zero chance I was getting involved in their mess ever again. I closed my eyes and silently repeated my new golden rule. Do not meddle in other people's drama. Do not meddle in other people's insane drama, and just stop thinking about it altogether. Inside a dim conference room at Wendy Quinn's headquarters, she sat dead center at the head of the long table. The expensive pen in her hand tapped a slow, rhythmic beat against the glass top. Tap, tap, tap. Her assistant leaned in, his voice hushed as he delivered the report. After Shane Lowell packed his bags and left the company, he actually tried reaching out to independent media accounts to drag our name through the mud. Don't worry, we caught wind of it early and shut him down hard. And, of course, what happened next had absolutely nothing to do with us. He just happened to get caught in a nasty street brawl, and snap! One of his legs got completely shattered. After that, we just kept squeezing him, shrinking his world day by day. The guy couldn't land a single job anywhere. Every single source of income he had was completely severed. He is literally surviving off his elderly parents right now. But what about Caleb Shaw? He was the mastermind behind it all, after all. Just as you instructed, boss. His prized 5th limb has been utterly destroyed. The assistant swallowed hard, wiping a drop of sweat. He hesitated for a second before adding, there is just one more thing. Those 2 guys, they are actually living together now. A heavy, dead silence instantly filled the entire conference room. Wendy's pupils blew wide open, utterly shell-shocked. She slowly repeated the words, "Wait, they are living together?" The assistant gave a super awkward nod. Wendy's face instantly drained of all color, turning a sickly pale. She genuinely looked like she was about to throw up on the spot. Gross. Anyway, how has Doug been performing lately? Well, he works hard, but honestly, his actual skills don't even come close to matching his shiny new title. And the way he treats that little girl. The assistant abruptly clamped his mouth shut. Wendy shot him a freezing glare. Spit it out. What about the kid? It is bad, ma'am. He is constantly beating her or screaming his lungs out at her. It is absolutely nothing like that loving father act he put on when he brought her to the office before. Honestly, he treats her like some stray dog he dragged in from the gutter. Plus, we've noticed some massive red flags. He has been snooping around our financial records way too closely. If you ask me, I am almost certain that greedy bastard is gearing up to embezzle company funds. 3 men. And not a single one of them gave her a moment of peace. It just went to show that her past self wasn't just blindly naive. She had been a colossal, gullible idiot. Wendy rubbed her throbbing temples. Forget them. Do we have any news on Ethan Carter? The assistant quickly pulled out a phone, opened up a blurry screenshot, and zoomed way in on the corner. There was a guy holding a massive sea crab, absolutely tearing into it like a wild man. It looks quite a bit like him, boss. Please, take a look and see if it is your guy. Wendy snatched the phone out of his hand, narrowing her eyes to study the horribly pixelated image. The assistant hovered nervously. After Ethan jumped on that train out of nowhere, he hopped off at multiple random stops. He covered his tracks well, and eventually, we just completely lost his trail. But we snagged this picture just yesterday. Some of the guys in the office were scrolling through their feeds, watching some random beachside live stream, and they spotted him completely by chance. It looks incredibly like him, but we just can't be 100% sure. As Wendy stared at that blurry face, the icy glare in her eyes finally melted into something impossibly soft. Her thumb gently stroked the glass over his face. Trace the IP. Verify the exact address from this video. Hire someone local on the ground to confirm it is him. Understood, ma'am. And how exactly should we handle Shane and Caleb? A dark, venomous glint flashed through Wendy's eyes. Keep crushing them. Squeeze every last drop of hope out of their miserable lives. They actually dared to covet things that were never theirs to take. Let them choke on the consequences. As for Doug, keep a close tail on him. If he tries to dip his dirty hands into the company's money, let him do it. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Cold sweat beaded on the assistant's forehead as he nodded like a terrified bobblehead. But before they could even spring the trap, everything spectacularly blew up. Doug was suddenly dragged away in handcuffs. Little Lily had actually called the cops on him for domestic violence and molestation. Wendy's brain practically short-circuited. Lily reported him? Put the beatings aside for a second, Doug actually molested her? Was that sick bastard even human anymore? Had she been completely blind this entire time? But after the cops dug into it, the assault charges turned out to be a total fabrication. The brutal beatings, though? 100% real. It turned out Lily wasn't even his biological flesh and blood. He had just adopted her with his ex-wife. When the dust finally settled, the courts ruthlessly stripped away every last shred of his custody rights. Wendy thought back to how frail and innocent Lily used to look, begging for her protection, only to realize that even a child could harbor such terrifying, calculating schemes. This entire world was just one colossal, sickening lie. Right now, in this moment, all Wendy wanted was to hunt down Ethan Carter, bury her face in his chest, and desperately beg for his forgiveness. Meanwhile, my beautifully peaceful life was still rolling right along. Honestly, it was going so incredibly smoothly, it felt like a freaking dream. I actually started to wonder if that crazy woman, Wendy Quinn, had finally wiped me from her memory. Did I do it? Did my grand escape plan actually work? Well, lately, the local aunties at the village matchmaking events had been giving me some awfully weird looks. I was getting so jumpy I honestly wondered if I was developing some kind of severe paranoid schizophrenia. It felt like a classic case of paranoid peasants, constantly plotting to assassinate the emperor. Then, that very evening, my buddy Kyle sprinted over, whispering that some massive corporate boss wanted to buy up our land to build fancy fishing village-style resorts. And guess what? The exact rundown shack where I was hiding was sitting dead center in their blueprints. I bolted up from my chair like I'd been shot. It was her. Wendy Quinn had found me. I have to get the hell out of here. That psycho was too scared to spook me, so she was slowly tightening the noose. What an absolutely terrifying, sinister woman. Without breathing another word, I frantically started hurling my clothes into my suitcase. I had gotten way too comfortable, lived way too softly for way too long. I had accumulated way too much useless junk. Kyle just stood there, staring at me like I was possessed. Bro, What the heck are you doing? Running for my damn life. If I am even 1 second too late, I am a dead man. Come on, bro, seriously? Are you on the FBI's most wanted list or something? Just shut up and get lost, man. I am not on the run from the cops, man. I am just running from life. Look, just tell me straight, did you break the law? I shoved Kyle away. Are you kidding me right now? An upstanding guy like me would never do anything illegal. This is personal. Purely a bitter personal grudge. Then we are good. Bro, listen to me. As long as you are not wanted by the police, no one in this village is gonna let anyone touch you. Kyle grabbed my arm, refusing to let me pack up and bail. Man, you are just being way too paranoid. You have laid low here for months, and no one has come sniffing around. It is literally just some corporate developer buying up land. You are jumping at every single shadow, dude. Thinking about it. He actually had a point. Maybe I had just gotten way too comfortable living off the grid. Or maybe this was just my main character syndrome acting up. Tell you what, bro, Kyle offered. If you really want to bounce, I won't stop you. You have done so much for us here. Let's just have one last epic drink tonight. Tomorrow, if you still want out, I will drive you to the train station myself. I sighed. Fine. One more day wouldn't kill me. I was still totally set on leaving, but I had to admit my time hiding out here had been incredibly peaceful. I'd actually built a real bond with these folks. I couldn't just scurry off into the night like a kicked stray dog. That night, when word got out that I was leaving, the whole village went absolutely crazy. We drank like there was no tomorrow. We vented about how brutal life was. We cursed out the greedy capitalists bleeding the working class dry. Then came the shameless bragging. We all painted picture-perfect fantasies of how rich and successful we were going to be. Long story short, the booze just kept flowing. I ended up getting completely blackout wasted. So, I never expected my reunion with Wendy Quinn to be this theatrical. It felt exactly like the very first night I woke up in this mess. Only this time, it was my bed, my pillow, my blanket, and there was a heavy leg slung right over my waist. I slowly turned my head. That ridiculously gorgeous face was sleeping like a baby. I just as slowly turned my head back to stare blankly at the ceiling. My hand accidentally brushed against her smooth leg. Instantly, I froze. I didn't dare breathe. Terrified I'd lose my mind like last time, I carefully lifted her leg off me, gently peeled back the covers, scooped up my clothes, dumped all over the floor, and tiptoed over to the door. I pulled the handle. Once. Twice. It wouldn't budge. Someone had locked it from the outside. Suddenly, a soft, teasing laugh echoed right behind me. I turned around in slow motion. Wendy Quinn was sprawled on the bed, chin resting in her hands, just watching me. Her eyes were crinkled in a smug, knowing smile. I just turned back to face the locked door. You can lock your doors against monsters, but you can't protect yourself from your own friends. They sold me out, didn't they? I wouldn't call it selling you out, exactly, she purred. I just decided to buy this whole area and turn it into a luxury resort. Technically, they all work for me now. Fantastic. So this is the crushing power of endless money. Then we really have nothing to discuss, I snapped. Discuss? Why wouldn't we? Let's discuss why you ran away and left me totally alone with those 3 terrifying thugs. Wendy patted the mattress. Come back to bed. Let's chat. I stood frozen like a statue. She sat up, casually pulling her messy hair into a bun. Hey, let's just use our words. Hands to yourself, I barked, having zero clue what kind of trap she was setting. This was bad. When she moved, her silk nightgown slipped, showing off the flawless, pale skin at her waist. I gulped. Hard. I seriously gulped. Wendy shot me a wicked sideways glance and pouted at the empty space beside her. Come here. Now. Do not make me ask you a third time. When I stubbornly stayed put, her voice dropped to a whisper. Since you left, I haven't had a single good night's sleep. Just let me get some actual rest tonight. We can fight about everything tomorrow. I glanced at the heavy door behind me. Still locked tight. There was zero chance Wendy came out here all by herself. Even if I busted down that door, her goons were definitely waiting outside. If I was going to make a run for it, it had to be tomorrow. This was just way too awkward. My pride screamed at me not to cave into her, but I was literally trapped. Wendy's eyes narrowed, flashing a dangerous, scary glare. But I stood my ground. Finally, she sighed dramatically, pulled out her phone and started tapping. Ping! My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and stared. $200,000 just hit my account. I was completely speechless. Look, I can't be bought, Ping. Another 200,000 dropped. I swear I didn't want to surrender, but this crazy rich woman was making it impossible. I truly, honestly meant to stand up for my dignity. But almost $500,000 is $500,000. And suddenly, my feet? They totally had a mind of their own. Okay, stop sending money. Do you think cash grows on trees? I yelled, instantly diving onto the bed and pulling her into it. She immediately snuggled right into my chest. Ethan Carter, you never used to act like this. Yeah, well, I used to be an idiot. Wendy's body tensed up slightly. She let out a shaky breath. I really hurt you, didn't I? Can we? I gently rubbed her back. Just go to sleep, Wendy. We will hash it all out tomorrow. My mind was racing, still plotting my grand escape for tomorrow. But since she came all the way here tonight to warm my bed, turning her down just felt a little too rude. Not to mention, she had already given so much. The woman curled up in my arms, let out a soft, cat-like purr as she breathed. She looked so peaceful, her guard completely down. But seeing those dark circles under her eyes? Yeah, she definitely had not slept a wink lately searching for me. Staring at her for a while, I had to hand it to her. This little enchantress was drop-dead gorgeous. I quickly bit my tongue. No, I had to stay strong. I still needed to find a way to get the hell out of here. I absolutely could not fall for her again. Who knew what crazy twist this damn plot would take next? Meanwhile, I was cursing Kyle's name straight to hell. There was no way he dragged me out drinking yesterday blind to what was happening. Oh, good grief. I really trusted the wrong guy. That night, Wendy Quinn slept like a baby, but I didn't catch a single wink of sleep. I had a stunning beauty wrapped in my arms, fresh cash notifications popping up on my phone, and a swirling storm of panic about what would happen if I didn't run. My feelings were a total mess. I toughed it out until dawn, and now? Now I was squatting right outside the front door. She had locked the door, but totally forgot the window. So, when she was out cold, I slipped through the window just to smoke a cigarette. This local brand was pretty tough to get. I offered a smoke to the wall of men in black suits surrounding my place. Not a single one took it. They just stared at me in dead silence. Awkward. Fine, suit yourselves. I casually tucked one behind my ear. Ethan! Someone yelled from outside the gate. That voice felt like a breath of fresh air. It shattered the awkward tension and gave my pent-up rage a target. Damn you, Kyle! You absolute traitor! You total sellout! I marched over to throw open the gate, but got blocked. A guy in black opened it for me instead. Wow! Look at this VIP treatment. Miss Quinn gave strict orders, the guard said. Under no circumstances are you to leave this courtyard. That was a dagger to the heart. My little superiority complex vanished instantly. Bro, you drank way too much last night, Kyle pleaded. Your wife showed up waving a marriage certificate, saying she was taking you home. We couldn't exactly stop her. I shot him a massive side-eye. Nice excuse, buddy. Dare you look me in the eye and say you didn't get me wasted on purpose? Does it even matter? Do you really want to leave me that badly? Wendy Quinn's shaky voice echoed from right behind me. I glanced at the intimidating men in black boxing me in, then at the curious villagers gathering out past the gate. I had seriously hoped the locals would have my back, but against Wendy Quinn's ultimate superpower of endless cash, the people folded like cheap suits. Since it had already come to this, what does a husband really have to fear? Worst case scenario, I get dragged back and figure it out later. Wendy, I sighed, everything around us looks the same, but our hearts, they are just not in the same place anymore. I don't want to ruin the beautiful memories we used to share. I don't want us to end up hating each other, covered in emotional scars. She stammered. Just what? I snapped back. Just that you felt like being kind? Just that you wanted to help them? Well, what about me? I grabbed her arm and dragged her into the house, pulling her into a small, dusty room I had kept sealed since the day I arrived. Wendy Quinn froze, totally stunned. The room was filled with the regrets of our relationship, all the dreams and promises we never actually fulfilled. I finished them all by myself, I whispered. I wanted to run to escape you, because I just couldn't forget the pain. I had to run far enough away, far enough so you couldn't hurt me just to protect someone else. That way, when you threw me aside for them, I could at least invent a pathetic excuse for myself. I would tell myself it was only because you were far away and simply couldn't see me. Wendy, couldn't you even give me that one tiny bit of mercy? Wendy Quinn clutched a pair of kissing figurines to her chest. There is no one else, she cried out. I only love you. It was all my fault. I took your love for granted and recklessly threw it away. I never considered your feelings. It won't happen again. I swear to you. It will never happen again. You are the only one I love. Please, just come home with me, okay? I promise that from now on you are my absolute first priority. Just tell me what I need to do. Ethan, I cannot live without you. What do you want me to do to those 3 people who hurt us? Tell me. Send them to a hellhole in northern Myanmar? Throw them overboard into international waters? Chop them to pieces and bury them in a pit? Just say the word. Holy crap. I slapped my hand over her mouth immediately. Was she seriously saying this out loud right now? The heavy, emotional atmosphere I had just carefully built up was completely ruined. I gently pushed her away. Honestly, I just don't trust you. Even if you go back and deal with those 3, there will only be others taking their place later. 1, 2, 3 seconds of silence passed. So, you still refuse to forgive me? She lowered her head, sobbing uncontrollably as she hugged the little kissing doll. Step by step, she slowly turned and walked out toward the front gate. Facing Kyle and the crowd of villagers, she put on a show, tears streaming down her beautiful face. Neighbors, this is just a silly fight between a husband and his wife. He abandoned me and our unborn baby. He ran all the way out here to hide, completely ignoring us. Even now, after I traveled thousands of miles just to find him, but as a thank you for taking care of my husband, I have decided to invest heavily in this village. That way, everyone here can get rich. So even if you don't go out to sea, even during the toughest times, you will all have a permanent, stable source of income. But he still refuses to forgive me. He still wants to leave. She lowered her head, softly stroking her belly. Then, she just dropped to the ground and burst into loud, dramatic sobs. How are my baby and I supposed to survive without him? I just stood behind her, staring in absolute disbelief. Wendy Quinn, you deserve an Oscar for this performance. I looked up, instantly meeting the angry glares of the entire village. Kyle was the first one to march right up to my face. Ethan, man, you are totally out of line here. We've known each other for a good while, and I know you're a decent guy. But no matter how bad things got, your wife traveled all this way while pregnant. We just can't sit back and let you do her dirty like this. Yeah, he's right, the crowd chimed in. Ethan, your wife is gorgeous, loaded, and she's carrying your kid. How many lifetimes of good karma did you cash in to get this lucky? You can't be the kind of deadbeat who ditches his own flesh and blood. Otherwise, this auntie wasted all that good seafood feeding you. The sweet older lady who always hooked me up with fresh catches looked at me with genuine disappointment. She had totally wanted to set me up with her daughter. Exactly. Shame on you. The same guys I was doing shots with just last night were completely turning on me. I was just standing there, totally dumbfounded. I looked back down at Wendy Quinn, sitting in the dirt surrounded by the crowd, still sobbing her eyes out. She really knew how to put on a cheap, high-drama spectacle. She literally just sat on the ground and threw a full-blown toddler tantrum, but out of the corner of her eye, she was shooting me these fierce, calculating glares, and there was definitely a hidden smirk in there. It suddenly clicked in my brain. Wait, hold on a second, everyone. Did you just say you're pregnant? Wendy kept sobbing as she pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket and handed me the ultrasound report. I went completely dead silent. Looking at the date, it was from the exact night before I ran away. Meaning the very night I first crossed over into this world. And yeah, there definitely wasn't any protection used that night. Bullseye. I stared blankly at the test results. On my absolute first night in this crazy world, I had already created a blood tie. Wendy got up, walked over, and wrapped herself tightly around my arm. Honey, let's stop fighting. Let's just go home, okay? I mentally collapsed. This was definitely not in the original plot. The entire storyline of this novel had just completely derailed. We ended up staying in the village for a few more days. Wendy had her corporate team handle the paperwork to buy out the local guest house. Then, with the entire village waving us off, we finally hit the road. Just like that, my great escape was over. On the way back, Wendy looked over at me. "Are you still worried about those 3 losers?" She casually handed me her phone. "No one is ever going to bother us again." I looked at the screen, and a freezing chill shot straight down my spine. Doug was dead. Just a few miles from the fishing village where I had been hiding, he was brutally stabbed to death. And the ones who held the knife? Shane Lowell and Caleb Shaw. It turned out that way before Wendy even came looking for me, she had already planted her own operatives around Doug, Shane, and Caleb. They totally brainwashed Doug, constantly whispering in his ear about how obsessed Wendy was with me. They convinced him that if he just dressed up and acted exactly like me, she might actually fall for him instead. After hitting rock bottom and getting turned in by Lily, a desperate Doug actually believed their lies. So, he started copying my entire vibe, even cutting his hair to match mine. He wore my exact style of clothes, mimicked my voice, and mirrored my every move. He literally tried to turn himself into my clone. Meanwhile, Shane and Caleb had been pushed so far to the edge of ruin that they could barely afford to eat. And the burning hatred they felt for me? It was slowly being fueled and manipulated step by the new friends Wendy had placed in their circle. Those operatives conveniently leaked that Wendy had headed down south to track me down. So, those 2 psychopaths followed her trail south, desperate for revenge. Manipulated by the crowd's whispers, they eventually spotted Doug, who was perfectly imitating me. In that split second, their blind rage shattered whatever sanity they had left. They rushed in and mercilessly stabbed the fake me. Doug bled out on the spot, while Shane and Caleb both caught life sentences behind bars. Wendy looked at me and offered a quiet, chilling smile. "Are you satisfied now, honey? Once those 2 are locked up, I'll have my people take extra special care of them inside. They definitely won't get lonely. Don't you worry." I stared at her soft, sweet smile, and every single hair on my arm stood straight up. The main plot of the novel might be over, but this woman's absolutely ruthless villain settings hadn't changed one bit. She looped her arm through mine, resting her head on my shoulder. "Honey, don't ever think about running away from me again, okay?" "Fine. I won't run." I spent my days walking on eggshells, fully expecting the worst, only to realize that Wendy really had changed. She hired a top-tier CEO to run her empire. Unless there was a massive crisis, she just stayed home with me all day. She actually started doing chores. She tackled all those mundane tasks she used to think were beneath her. But whenever she mopped the floor, she stubbornly made me rinse the mop for her. Whenever she cooked a meal, she insisted I stand right there in the kitchen to help her. No matter what she was doing, she dragged me right along with her, keeping me in arm's reach, as if she was terrified that I might just vanish into thin air again. From that epic smackdown onward, unnecessary guys entirely vanished from her orbit. She completely stopped doing those naive, brainless favors. Fast forward a bit, and after our beautiful daughter was born, we named her Nora Carter. Our precious little girl, Nora, was absolute perfection, so soft, incredibly sweet, and just melt-in-your-mouth adorable. Her name beautifully carried pieces of both our identities, secretly holding all the deep longing we had for our future together. To seal it, we went back and polished our old lovelock from the mountain peak until it shined like new. Piece by piece, we finally made up for all the painful regrets of our past lives. Wendy was no longer that blindly soft-hearted woman everyone used to walk all over. And me? I was finally free from the constant, gut-wrenching anxiety of losing what I loved. The exhausting mind games were dead and gone, and so was all that cold, bitter favoritism. What replaced it was just the pure, cozy warmth of everyday life. 3 solid meals, 4 beautiful seasons, and our perfect little family of 3, living peacefully together without a care in the world. Honestly, looking back at my past life, I used to be totally crushed and oppressed by the ruthless power of capital. But now? I literally had capital pressed right beneath me in bed every night. In the most hilarious way possible, I had actually gotten the ultimate revenge for my past self. All those tragic, miserable endings from those trashy novels were entirely rewritten by my own 2 hands. Because at the end of the day, whether you are dealing with crazy romance or just surviving life, you still gotta put a little bit of your heart into it. Who would have thought?